Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday night edition of Spaced Out Radio Tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to have a great night. Author, researcher, all into the paranormal, Mark Leslie will join us. Hey, he's a good Canadian kid, so you know he's going to be good because you like me being Canadian, and I'm pretty damn good as well. So we're going to have some fun with Mark tonight coming on up. But first, let's say hello to each and every one of you, including Tim Mothman and his goatee sharing a gold medal position. Race fan with a silver, Eternity Eternal with a bronze medal tonight. Robert Lamoth and Kitty Caddywhack, nice to see you. T-Bone, my man, how you doing? Bar Madison and Frankie B, how's it going? Anil, how's it going? Mama Catherine, I love you, my dear. I hope you're having a great night. You're going to enjoy this one. I promise you, you will. I say that every night, but I'm usually right on that one. So hope you enjoy it, Mama Catherine. Paramarv, how you doing? Thank you. I did put the Flatwoods Monster case in. I sure did. Mel WD-40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth, especially when you're talking ghosts and paranormal. So make sure you continue that, Mel, because we need the lube. We totally need the lube. Here we go. Continuing on here with our roll call tonight. Who else is next? Necessary Dialogue. Good to see you. Number 44 in your program, starting on defense tonight from Stockholm, Sweden. Lars Jansson. Fast Hemi, how you doing? Good to see you. D. Cypher has returned. D. Cypher will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Cosmic Joe. Monica, thank you for coming on in. Kurt M., nice to see you as we continue on with our roll call here. And scrolling on down, there's Cody Dodson. How's it going? And Ray True Colors number 2. I wonder if she's like an HB2 pencil. Ray True Colors number 2. Aloha to you. Welcome to SOR Chat. Pam Harris is here. Pam Harris will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Ozzy, thank you for coming on in. As well as who's next on our list here. Well, let's take a little peek here. Just another guy named Harry. Thank you for joining us tonight. And no way we can be caught up already. Music Maker fan, how you doing? Matthew Goodka, nice to see you. Flat 6, good to have you here. As we continue on with our roll call, Richard Minish, thank you for coming on in. Good morning, Skip Tamalu. How are you, my dear? I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful hot coffee this morning while you're tuning in. What time is it there? About 6 a.m.? 6 a.m. over in Europe right now? 5 a.m.? Well, good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. All right. Who else is next here? Let's take a look. James, Friday the 13th. How you doing? Good to have you back. And we're going to get the radio side going here. 1 second. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going into the paranormal as author, researcher Mark Leslie is going to talk about haunted hospitals, the haunted Great Lakes, and so much more as we get ready for a night of ghosts, ghouls, and goblins. Hey, why not? We are 38 days away from Halloween. We got to be prepared. We are at roll call on our YouTube side. Jay Trueseeker, how you doing? Thank you for coming on in. And who is next on our list? Well, let's take a little look-see here, shall we? Little peeky poo. All right. I think we're caught up so far. We'll say hello to those who come in a little bit later. For our YouTube chatters, the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And you can also join our YouTube membership. We greatly appreciate your love, as we got about 25 seconds before we're going to launch tonight. And of course, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Why? We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. You could wear our clothing out in public and actually be proud to wear it. Angie, how are you tonight? Good to see you. And we got a few seconds left. I'm going to ask all of you a favor right now. I want you to throw those horns up. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin in the woods, where together, my friends, we own the night. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We have an amazing show coming up for you tonight. We're going to find out about the ghosts of the Great Lakes, haunted hospitals, and many, many more awesome hauntings. Author, researcher, paranormal enthusiast, Mark Leslie is here. His website, markleslie.ca, if you want to check it on out. Then in hour number 3, we got Swamp Dweller kicking things off. Then Robin Haynes returns for the Crypted Q&A. So I'm excited to get this guy on. This is going to be a good show. Mark Leslie is the author of more than 30 books that include the award-winning humorous urban fantasy Canadian Werewolf series, hailed by readers as the thinking man's werewolf, and his award-nominated ghostly explorations such as Haunted Hospitals and Tomes of Terror. He also is the editor of more than 10 anthologies, including titles in the Hugo Award-nominated Pulphouse fiction magazine and the Aurora Award, which is Tesseracts series, which showcases the best Canadian speculative fiction. Mark has delved into nonfiction, covering the subject of the paranormal with 6 books, including his most popular, Haunted Hospitals. He has a 7th release coming out soon, The Ghosts of the Great Lakes. I am so interested in that one. And we're going to get to a markleslie.ca is his website. This is a good time. Mark Leslie, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. How are you?
Hey, Dave. Great to be coming at you from the other side of the country.
Absolutely, my friend. And you know, hockey season is right around the corner.
It is the time of year for Leafs fans to get excited and to get disappointed again, has been for my entire life.
Yeah.
God love them.
God bless you for holding on that tight, because, Mark, if I would have known you were a Leafs fan, let's just cut it. I wouldn't have been. Okay. I mean, no offense. I mean,
I'm actually a Habs fan, but I admire Leaf fans.
I'm just going to say it. 67. Okay. 67.
Yeah.
Your password for tonight, people, I'm going to get the password out early. 67.
There you
That's
go.
what the password is. And when you can figure that out, my audience, that is not in Canada, you will understand what I mean by that. Mark, thank you so much. I love talking paranormal, especially with my fellow Canadians here. What sparked you into this realm?
I've always been afraid of the dark. I'm still a big chicken at the age of 56. I'm afraid of the dark. I'm afraid of what might be lurking in there. I'm afraid of the monster under my bed, the shadows. My imagination is very powerful, and I've always had those fears. And so even as a child, when I started writing, I started to write stories, and I couldn't just write a normal story. I always had to write like these what if tales. Like what if there were, creatures visiting us from another planet? What if that light in the sky was a UFO? What if that shadow in the woods was Bigfoot or whatever it was? And I didn't actually start writing paranormal books until I was an adult. I had already written tons of horror fiction and thrillers and other, sort of speculative fiction. And it wasn't until it was about 14 years ago that I had moved to Hamilton, Ontario. And I'd moved there because that's where my wife's family was from. We wanted to live either closer to my family or her family. So we went there. And one of the ways I like to get to know a place is go on a ghost walk. And the Haunted Hamilton was a group called Haunted Hamilton. They had these great ghost walks. They had already been doing them for 10 years by the time I moved there. And I just learned so much about the city of Hamilton and the history and the ghosts. And I ended up turning that into a book because I was listening to their stories. I was going on the ghost walks and I said, "You guys are amazing." And I've been a writer and a bookseller most of my life. And so I always think, well, you should put this into a book. This would make a good book for other people to read. And they said, we're too busy running our business. But if you want access to our files, you can have Adam and you can write your own book. And so lo and behold, a few months later, I pitched to Dundurn, Canada's largest independent publisher. I pitched them a book of ghost stories about Hamilton. And lo and behold, that started off the trend of researching for fiction, which is fun, right? Like researching werewolves and understanding the mythology so I could write my own fictional werewolf novels, but then also researching and putting that into paranormal books.
I love how you found out about Hamilton through a ghost walk. And here I thought it was just about the Tiger Cats in Steel City and an empty NHL dream.
I know. So close for them actually having an NHL team a couple times. But
what did happen in Hamilton in 1987? We just had an anniversary of that.
Was that when we got the Grey Cup?
No, it was the famous Gretzky to Lemieux goal, the Canada Cup.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. 38 years ago, man.
Wow.
38 years ago. The year Sid the Kid was born. Sidney Crosby was about a month old when that
happened.
My
God. Really?
Yeah. There's some hockey trivia for you.
Wow.
My favorite goal ever.
See, I grew up with Gordie Howe and Bobby Orr, and those were my guys when I was young. And when I was actually playing hockey when I was a kid.
I may live in BC, but I'm an Oilers fan through and through.
There you go. You go.
Yeah. It's hurt the last couple of years. I'm not going to lie. It's hurt.
Yeah.
For you going on this paranormal journey and learning about yourself and what this is all about, I think for our mostly American audience, I don't think they understand how haunted Canada really is. And I guess the reason why is we don't promote things very well. Canada has a social media problem where we don't promote things that are really cool in our country because we don't want to brag. We don't want to make a scene for ourselves. What will other people think? You know what I'm saying? We don't want to admit it. Like I live right, if you go right behind my studio about 3/4 of a mile, that's the original Gold Rush Trail. Going straight up.
That thing, close. Wow.
That thing is haunted as anything, that trail. Okay. And and I've done some investigations along that for a while, and but we have a lot of ghost towns here. We have a lot of very haunted historic places here. Why do you think we don't, as Canadians, promote how really cool Canada is for a paranormal adventure?
I think there's a quietness about the way we approach things. There's a subtlety as well. I mean, I grew up in Sudbury, Ontario, the nickel capital of the world. Like this was and the basin created by a meteorite crash, which probably is what deposited all of the nickel and the iron ore and all that stuff into the ground there. And even I think it was 76 that we actually had UFOs come from Colorado Springs, up from the airbase there, come over Sudbury, Ontario in 76 to intercept these unknown objects that were captured on radar at that time. I mean, that's a significant international event. I believe they thought there might have been Russians and stuff like that coming into Canadian airspace, but it wasn't the big news you would think it would be. When you look at the stuff that we can do in Canada, I think we very often will take an introverted approach to the world in general and just sit back. I grew up with a cousin who talked a lot and spoke a lot. And in my home, sitting beside this cousin, we grew up really close, almost like brothers. He was the funny one and the active one. He was always doing stuff. And I was led to believe that I was the shy one, but I was only the shy one in comparison. Maybe we're considered shy because we have this big brother who lives south of us that is pretty bold and boisterous and noisy and loud. And the population, let's look at the population of Canada, is about the population of the state of California, right? So there's not a lot of us when you think about it that way. So there's probably various reasons why we're either quiet about it or we just say, hey, well, no, my big brother's talking. We're just going to sit back and smile and grin. Or maybe we just don't have the volume of people to share the stories, right? If when you think about our population.
Well, I know my community, which is extremely haunted. People here don't like talking about it.
Yeah.
We don't want the attention. We don't want, people to think we're a weird community. Yet, if you talk to people one-on-one in my community, most of them have had a UFO sighting. Most of them have lived in a haunted house in this area. And some of them have even had encounters with Bigfoot or other weird creatures in the forest. It just seems to happen all over the place. I do have a question for you, though, because you are East Coast. Have you ever looked into the paranormal legend of the Montreal Forum?
No, I haven't actually. Even when I was working on Macabre Montreal, I mean, found a whole bunch of haunted breweries in Montreal and all kinds of other great legends, but no, nothing about the Forum. You've got some stories to tell me?
I think you need to look into this story. I really do. I'm going to tip you off on what could be your greatest book ever.
The Montreal Forum Ghost.
The Montreal Canadiens were the last Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup back in 1993. 1994, Gary Bettman takes over as commissioner, literally comes out basically saying he hates Canadian markets. Okay, back then.
Yeah.
Canada has never won a Stanley Cup since. So there is actually paranormal people and investigators who thought that or called it the curse of the Montreal Forum. Because in 1994, the Habs moved from Montreal or from the Forum into the Molson Center.
Right.
And a few years ago, when Montreal played in the Stanley Cup final, they actually tried to take the ghosts from the old Forum that are said to still be walking around, including Jean Beliveau, Henri Richard, Rocket Richard, and all of the legends, Howie Morenz and Jacques Plante, you name it. And they were trying, because the original dressing room is still intact.
Wow.
And they tried to do a seance in order to try and get the ghosts to move over to the Molson Center. Wow. Now, it was unsuccessful because the Habs never won the Stanley Cup. But there is a huge portion of Montreal who believes that it's the curse of the Forum, that the Habs should never have left the Forum.
Wow, that is amazing. You know, it's funny. That reminds me of another building that seems to have like either a curse or a protective element associated with it, and it's the the Parliamentary Library in Ottawa. Right. When you think about, I've been thinking, we talk about the Montreal Forum, that there's something special about the spirits that are there. And maybe if we can only bring them over, Canada can win a cup again. But the Parliamentary Library, despite disaster and a massive fire that took down the entire Parliament buildings, the library is the only standing part of that structure. And even when there was an incident that took place several years ago, where unfortunately a soldier had been shot and killed, it was near the library where they actually apprehended the suspect, almost as if there's a positive element or a positive spirit associated with that building. And I wonder if there's something about that, with that, the association with buildings. You remember the loony in the ice? What was that? the Olympics?
Salt Lake City, 2002.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe there was that the spirit of the Canadian loon in that coin in the ice that helped us win that one.
I would say it was the magic of Mario Lemieux, but that's just for another topic.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Conversation, and Joe said, what a team! It's all Hall of Famers on that team.
Oh yeah, that was a powerhouse right there.
Sickening. Sickening. And imagine if we would have had Brett Hull instead of him getting pissed off with Hockey Canada.
Oh yeah,
Team USA. That would have been even better. But nonetheless, I'm telling you, man, if you look into that story, and there was a paranormal team that actually tried to do the seance and carry the dose over, that would be one hell of a book for you.
Thank you. I have made some notes of that for future research. Thank you.
Absolutely. What do you love about the paranormal? What really, gets you going? You say that you're still a kid at heart. You check under the bed for monsters. You make sure your closet doors are closed and windows are closed and everything at night. But what do you love about this?
I think what I love about it is that sense of wonder, that sense of what if, that sense of there's more out there than we can comprehend. To go back and quote Hamlet from Shakespeare, there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in our philosophies, and that there's so much we don't understand, even about our own brains and our own minds and the soul and all these things. There's so much we don't understand, that there has to be more. Right? We didn't understand how certain elements worked. We didn't understand how to control electricity and fire and all those things as we've grown, as society has grown and science has grown. And yet still there are things that we can't explain. There's phenomenon that science can't explain. There's experiences people have. And that drives me, that curiosity, that sense of wonder. So I love digging into the stories. I love researching the stories. And you know what? Half the time when I research the stories, I found out it's just a legend. It's just a myth, and it's been disproven. Or you can prove it by, with gravity and physics and things like that, right? Like this phenomenon. But there's something magical about, when you're looking into it and you go, hey, but I can't figure this one out. It doesn't make sense. How do you explain how that could have happened? And that's where the wonder and sense of magic comes back in.
Mm-hmm. What is your greatest ghostly encounter that you've had?
Personally?
Yeah.
So it's funny, for years doing this research, I would often say, I haven't had one. Thank goodness, because I'm such a big chicken. I probably would have had a heart attack or would have had to change my pants or whatever, whatever the case may be. But it was a few years ago. So my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, and I were traveling from Ontario, Canada, down to Orlando for a writers' conference. And she works in education, so she was off for the summer. So we decided to do a fun road trip, and we were going to try to go to as many haunted bars as we could along the way. So we took about four days or so to drive down. But on the way back, we had other things going on back in Ontario we had to get to. We just did it in 2 days. And the one place we wanted to stop on the way back was in Weston, West Virginia. And this is a haunted hospital story. This is the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. And that's something Rhonda Parrish and I wrote about in Haunted Hospitals, except Rhonda from Edmonton, Alberta. Rhonda did half the stories. I did the other half of the stories. So she did all the in-depth research about that particular location. So I had only just proofread the chapter before we sent it off to our editor, but I was excited for Liz and I to travel up so I could actually tour the lunatic asylum. They had tours going on, and then I could experience some of the research firsthand, and and had a copy of the book with me, and so I could take some promotional pictures, etc. So we drive from Orlando all the way up to Weston, West Virginia. And we finally are getting in around 1 a.m. It's been a really long day of driving, and we're in the mountains where the fog is happening. And Liz is driving, and I'm in the passenger seat. And we're like, okay, we just need to find a hotel to stay at, and then we'll get up in the morning at 9 o'clock. We'll go on the tour, and then we'll be home in 6 or 7 hours because we were, or maybe 8 or 9 hours. We were relatively close to Ontario by then. I get out of the car at this first hotel, and the parking lot is packed. I run in and say, do you have any rooms? They're like, nope. But there's an Econo Lodge just about a couple miles up the highway. They may have some rooms. So I get back in the car. We get to the Econo Lodge. The lot is also full, and I'm getting this feeling like, oh man, I'm just tired. I want to go to bed. Go in and I say, do you guys have any rooms? And they say, yeah, we have one room, but. And this is where, me, the chicken, steps back. He said, but it's just a room with 2 double beds. We don't have queen or king or anything. I said, oh, we're just going to sleep. We don't care. All we need is a place to just close our eyes and go to bed. So I run back out to the car, tell Liz to park so we can check in. We get into the room. We're so exhausted. She picks the bed by the bathroom. I pick the one by the door, and she gets into bed, puts her hoodie up, rolls it over, and she falls asleep right away, which she does very brilliantly. I'm very jealous because I lay there in the dark and I hear every noise and I get scared and stuff like that. So anyways, so she falls asleep, and I'm all excited about this. So it takes me a while to fall asleep. So I wake up at a particular point in the night, and I can hear someone shuffling around the bed. And I look up and I see Liz moving around the side of her bed, moving towards the bathroom. And then I'm waiting for her to turn on the light. And I'm laying there waiting for her to turn on the light. She doesn't turn on the light to the bathroom. And then I hear breathing, snoring coming from the bed beside me. And I look over, and Liz is laying in bed. So I sat bolt upright, and I thought, oh my God, there's a woman in the room. What's she doing? She's sneaking around in the dark. That's why she didn't turn off the light. And I was, of course, overtime imagination, freaking out. And then I got my phone. I lit up the room with a little flashlight. I went around. There was nobody in the bathroom. There's nobody in the room. The latch was still on the door. And I convinced myself, okay, here's what happened. I was laying there in bed. I watched Liz go to the washroom. I fell asleep. She went to the washroom, came out again 5 minutes later, whatever. I thought I woke up 5 minutes later and thought a second had passed, because that can happen, right? When you're in that sleepy mood. And she was back in bed. That's all it was. No problem. I finally convinced myself to go back to bed. A little later on, I hear this noise. It sounds a little bit like this. Something dropped on the table at the end of my bed where the TV is, where my laptop bag is, where our passports are. And I sit up again. I go, oh my God, someone's going through my stuff. There's someone in the room. Maybe that woman was hiding. Maybe she's still in here, the whole bit. Again, I turn on the lights. I check everything. There's nobody in the room. I finally go back to bed. I thought, oh, maybe it's someone upstairs, right? Drop noise, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I end up finally getting back to sleep, get maybe a couple hours sleep finally. We get up in the morning. We're getting ready. And I said to Liz, I said, wow, I had a really weird dreams last night. Some weird stuff happened. I said, did you get up in the middle of the night? And she goes, no, I didn't get up at all. I was in bed. I said, are you sure? She goes, no, why? She goes, I put the hoodie on, I rolled over, and I didn't get out of bed once. And so I told her the story.
We're going to go to break. We'll find out the end of that story with author Mark Leslie. MarkLeslie.ca is his website where you can find his paranormal books. Check them on out. They're really good. We're going to continue with ghostly encounters right after this on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear. I can't wait to hear the end of that story in a couple minutes here.
Sorry, I didn't see the indicator that we were going to go to a break. Sorry about that.
I was so enthralled, I forgot about the break, to be honest. I did. I looked over and I see the light flashing, and I'm like, uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Well, I didn't know because we were coming up on the half hour. I was wondering.
Oh, well, it happens.
Oh, lots of action in the comments. That's really cool to see.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got a pretty active chat room. They're pretty amazing. And then our good man Paramarv there, he posts everybody's links and emails and everything. So thank you, Paramarv, for doing that. Greatly appreciate it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And
then there's a break at the
past half hour. Man, I hope you do something with that book, man. With that idea, I hope you do.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into it. I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of curious too. I wonder if there's ever been a book of hockey ghost stories. That could be a very Canadian thing.
It would be. I bet you. And you know what else I bet? I bet you could get support from the Habs or the NHL on that.
Oh yeah, potentially. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Speaking of Gary Bettman, did you see the movie that was based on Blackberry?
No.
It's a Canadian film. Jay, the comedian Jay, stars in it. And there's a really wonderful line in the film where the guy who plays Gary Bettman says, "I'm going to go back to Waterloo where the vampires live." And it's just this weird line from the movie based on a city TV shtick that took place down in downtown Toronto from years ago, where that's what somebody had said. Because Blackberry was invented in Waterloo, where I am as well. So it's just kind of, when I saw that, I had to look into where did that line come from? Why did Bettman say that? And he was riffing on an old city TV thing that, I guess, early internet days. It was one of those few videos that just kind of went viral on YouTube.
Count Floyd.
Oh yeah, Count Floyd from Hamilton, right? He came into the store when I worked at the Chapters in Ancaster. I was so excited when he walked in. I'm like, oh my god! And actually, not Count Floyd. That was SCTV, but the Hilarious House of Frightenstein was produced in Hamilton, Ontario, which I grew up watching that show. I loved it. Did you get it?
No, we didn't get that one out west. At least I didn't see it.
Yeah, Billy Van was in it, and Vincent Price was actually he did a lot of the narration for it. So
right,
it was amazing.
Right, we got about just over 90 seconds. Man, that first half hour flew by.
Yeah, I'll fill up my water on the next break.
Yeah, all good, man. All good. You ever make it west?
Yeah, I've got a funny story about driving across the country this summer.
Oh yeah,
from Vancouver Island.
Nice.
Yeah, it even involves research of the Great Lakes on my way.
All right. Yeah, come up to the Caribou, man. Where I am.
I haven't been that far north. I go to the island a lot. We have a couple kids that live there, and then Vancouver, of course. But I haven't really been. Victoria, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice. Pam Harris, thank you, and thank you T-Bone for the great super chats. The super chats are a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very, very much. Thank you to all of our members on our YouTube side, joining a YouTube membership. We greatly appreciate it. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Why? Because we don't have ugly swag. No ugly swag. You can wear our stuff out in public and be pretty happy with it. People are going to say, you look good. You look good. That's what they're going to say. I've seen it happen. It's true. We got about 27 seconds here, my friend. And I'll just reintroduce you to the show, and we'll get going again. 5 seconds. Here comes the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us in as we talk some paranormal hauntings with author Mark Leslie. His website, markleslie.ca, if you want to find his books. Hey, I want to remind all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives. Yes, they are always free. Why are they free? Because I want them that way. I hated paying for them when I was going to college. I couldn't afford anything. So yes, our archives are always free. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Mark Leslie, author, researcher, haunted hospitals, the hauntings of Great Lakes. I want to hear all about it. But first, Mark, you got to finish your story that you were having about the hotel room.
Yeah. So after this night of things I couldn't explain or I thought might be dreams or whatever, I talked to Liz and said, "Hey, did you get up and go to the middle? Go to the bathroom?" And she said, "No, I didn't get out of bed all night." And so I said, "Well, that's strange, because here's what I thought happened. Here's what I saw. Here's what I heard. Here's what I saw." And as I finished telling the story, and here's the thing, Liz is not a believer like myself. She's very skeptical and very pragmatic, and she looks at things in very logical ways, and is kind of like always looking, always doubting and things like that. So I'm the true believer who's terrified of everything, over imaginative, and she's the one who kind of grounds me in a lot of very positive ways. So I finished the story. Her face goes completely white. I've never seen that look on her face before. And we've gone on a lot of ghost walks together where I'm hiding behind her because she's the brave one. And I said, "What?" She said, "Well, I didn't know if it was a dream or not, and I wasn't going to say anything, but since you shared what happened to you, here's what happened to me last night." She's laying in bed. She's got the hood pulled over her head. And she said at a certain point, she woke up and she felt that there was someone standing over the bed. Then she felt a hand touch her shoulder, and she knew it wasn't my hand. She said it felt like a woman's hand. And she thought, okay, there's someone in the room, and she's very feisty. She's the brave one. She's the strong one I always hide behind. She steels herself up, gets her fists ready, and she swings around like, I'm going to knock this person out. I'm going to surprise them. And there was nobody there. And that kind of freaked her out. And it took her a little while to get back to bed. But that's the only thing that happened to her that night. But it was enough that she felt a woman standing over her, felt a woman touch her shoulder. I heard and saw a woman walking around her bed, and then heard some noise in the room later on. So that was a really freaky moment where the two of us looked at each other and said, "Do you think there's a woman in this room?" Again, it's daylight, so I'm a little bit braver now because daylight hours. But the interesting thing is we thought it was really creepy and kind of scary. But also, she didn't hurt anyone. She didn't do anything harmful. We actually got the sense that maybe this woman was just lonely and was curious. And we actually felt bad for her. And as we're packing up and leaving to go on the tour of the haunted lunatic asylum, we actually said goodbye to her and wished her well. It was a weird thing where we suddenly felt this compassion for this lost spirit. And then because I'm a researcher, I went down to talk to the staff. Did they hear any stories? I called the management later, after I got back home to see, like, are there any stories of weird things happening in any of the rooms? And nothing. So I couldn't find any other stories about this place. But hey, it was an interesting event. And so, yes, I have encountered something I can't explain that I believe was a ghost.
That is absolutely terrifying, because you're wondering if there's somebody who's stuck into your room and it was able to disappear through your room, maybe with a secret passage or something.
Oh, wow.
Man, now you got my imagination running.
See, that reminds me of a bookstore outside of Portland as well, in Lincoln City, Oregon, actually. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, the oh my goodness, Shanghai tunnels.
No, I'm thinking of the portal to Lemuria. The kind of like an Atlantis kind of. It was in a bookstore, Bob's Beach Books, in Lincoln City, and I actually heard this story from the manager of the bookstore. And when I used to go there for the writing workshops that they used to take place in the town, and she was working in the store, and this odd couple came in. They looked like academic in nature, and they came in and kind of whispering to one another. And the cash desk is right at, and this is a really small store that kind of just has like step up when you go to the other layer, and there's just, you go around a corner and that's it. And there's no other exits from the store other than the front exit. And she sees them wandering around, and they're confused because when they first came in, she said, "Can I help you?" And they're like, "No, we're just looking around." But they're still talking and whatever. So she ends up going and helping them after about 20 minutes. And they say, "Okay, well, we're actually here looking for the portal to Lemuria. All the signs point to the fact that it's here in this location." And she's like, "Okay." She kind of takes a step back from them. She ends up just going and helping some other customers. So she's at the front of the store the whole time. And then when she goes to close, she realizes they've never left. And she goes in to see where they went, and they actually disappeared. Potentially through that portal. Maybe they found it.
Now, I've heard of that happening at Mount Shasta, where people would go into bookstores and then they'd come out like an hour later, and they'd be like say if you're a guy, you go in clean shaven, and you'd come out like an hour later, and you've got like a complete 5 o'clock shadow or a very short beard going on.
Where was this?
Mount Shasta.
Mount Shasta.
Apparently
Wow, you're giving me all these things to research. This is fantastic.
Oh, bud, I got a bunch for you. It's
almost like you host a paranormal radio show.
Maybe I do. Maybe that's something I should strive for the future, but oh yeah, there's some weird ones out there. That's for sure. Looking at your website, looking at your books, you have Haunted Hamilton, Haunted Hospitals, Spooky Sudbury, Creepy Capital, Times Terror, and Macabre Montreal. I mean, you've really taken on some of Eastern Canada's biggest cities here regarding the supernatural stories. How fun has it been to put those together?
It's been a blast, and I actually picked them by locations I've lived. I was living in Hamilton when I wrote Haunted Hamilton. I grew up in Sudbury. My hometown newspaper was interviewing me about Haunted Hamilton, and the reporter, Jenny Jellin, my co-author of the book, said, "Have you ever thought about doing a book of ghost stories about Sudbury?" And I said, "No, I hadn't." She says, "Well, if you ever wanted to, let me know. I've actually covered some stories that are unexplainable." And so we ended up doing Spooky Sudbury together. I went to university, and I lived in Ottawa for 10 years. So that was Creepy Capital. And I have never lived in Montreal, but I visited quite regularly. So a lot of the books were locations I have lived. So it was really fun to re-explore the city that I thought I knew by digging into the history. And I'll be honest with you, Dave, one of the things I love so much when I'm doing research for a book of paranormal stories is going to the local library, going to the archivist and saying, because they love a challenge, right? They love to help people with research, etc. It's like, here's what I'm looking for. And sometimes their eyes will light up and they're like, "Oh, I got some stuff for you." And they start pulling things out of the archives and photocopies of newspaper articles. And And even going through microfiche and oh, can I print this one out? This amazing experience. It's almost like it's Christmas morning, and I've got nothing but a ton of boxes and gifts with my name on it that I get to open and see what's in there.
It is amazing. It is amazing. It reminds me, I have a location up here that we try to get to every week. We haven't been able to get there for a couple weeks, but my research partner, Tim, and I, we have been investigating an area up here that we call Flight 21. And it is Canada's largest unsolved mass murder.
Oh, wow.
And it happened about 35 kilometers into the forest from my town. And in 1965, a plane flying from Vancouver to Whitehorse had a bomb on it and exploded. And all 52 people on board didn't make it.
Oh.
That area, oh my gosh, dude.
Wow.
It is like Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh, really?
Oh my goodness. It is amazing. Amazing.
Is there still wreckage
Yeah.
in that area? Yeah. I may have seen photos of that. I didn't know that's what it was called.
If you go on our YouTube channel and you look at our segment that we have in there called Secrets of the Forest,
Okay.
we're actually documenting a lot of this.
Cool.
Yeah. And
you got a book there, I bet.
oh, we have more than a book. We have way more than a book. And I can tell you this. I've never been more scared in my life than that location.
Really?
I don't, you know what? I can walk into, you could put me in a haunted house that has demons from Satan himself coming up. It won't even scare me compared
Really? Wow. Man.
Every time you go there, it's different.
Speaking of forests, it was outside of Kelowna when one of her daughters had lived in Kelowna, and we were visiting her there several years back, probably about, oh my God, 8 or 9 years ago. And she brought us up to this old commune up in the mountains that looked like it was an old hippie commune from the 60s or something like that. All these abandoned buildings. And because we're exploring it, it was very fascinating. Because I'm the big chicken, I grabbed this metal bar, and I was convinced there was someone watching us from the woods the whole time we were there. There's the creepy, there was even the old rusted swing set, which you always see in a horror movie. And I was expecting the swings to start moving on their own. But I just was overwhelmed with fear. And there were no stories of ghosts there. It was just kind of like a ghost village of all these buildings that were just standing there empty, that, this is where people used to live. I actually started to write a horror novel called Commune, in which I imagined what happened to those people. How did they die? Why did they disappear? And so that's one of the many projects that's on the back burner. But again, I was just so inspired by that.
I want to ask you about your book that's coming out, and I'm definitely going to get Klaus to book you again when your new book about the ghosts of the Great Lakes coming on out.
Yeah,
they interest me, and you know what? I'm very much surprised, Mark, that there really hasn't been a lot of paranormal authors that have taken on this amazing task with all of the shipwrecks that have gone on.
Yeah.
The Witch of November that took down,
the Edmund Fitzgerald. Yeah.
UFOs being seen all over the place along the Great Lakes. Sea monsters. There is a ton of things, paranormally speaking, happening about the Great Lakes. Were you surprised in your research that there wasn't a lot of people doing that?
Yeah, and it was so interesting to do. I was in contact with Woolsack and Wynn, a publisher in Hamilton, and they were interested in doing such a book. Now, I have a lot of books on the paranormal because I like reading about it and I like researching. But I was really interested in the variety of stories about the Great Lakes, right? You'd mentioned, right? So you got a ton of shipwrecks, so many different shipwrecks. You've got lighthouse ghosts. You've got ghosts that are associated with the land masses around those places. Mackinac Island, for example, is another one. It's known from the movie Somewhere in Time with Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour. That romantic time travel movie. So it's a tourist attraction. It's a seasonal place. But Mackinac Island being so small, I'm just doing the research for this book now because it's due in December. The Mackinac Island, I made a list of some of the ghosts. So yeah, it's this relatively small island. 600 people on it normally. There's an indigenous maiden who, according to legend, jumped to her death on a 150-foot limestone pillar on the western shores. Again, distraught over a suitor who was slain by her father, and he was from a rival tribe. There's a woman seen at Fort Mackinac who is identified as the widow of the Fort's hospital steward. The Fort's hospital steward, and his ship sank on Lake Huron in 1887. And she's appeared as recently as 1985. So it's not just these old stories about her, but the last time she was seen is in 85, and she hasn't been seen since. They sprinkled holy water on the last place she was seen. So that was an interesting tale. And then, there's a melancholy little girl with black hair seen playing the piano or crying. There's a ghost named Harvey at the Mission Point Resort. And then there's bed and breakfasts where different noises have been. So when I look at this island within the Great Lakes as well, just that small landmass has so many stories. So I'm constantly amazed at the stories I didn't expect I would find when I started doing the research.
What's your favorite ghost story leading into this book? I don't want to give too much away on it, because the book isn't out yet and you still got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
What would be your favorite story that you've heard?
Well, you know what? I was really enjoying learning more about the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, the old Gordon Lightfoot song that so many of us knew. So that was kind of intriguing to learn about. But I was also intrigued to learn more about some of the ghosts on Manitoulin Island. And when I wrote about Manitoulin Island, very briefly, I had a UFO story set on Manitoulin Island in spooky Sudbury. I had no idea that there were more ghost stories. So I'm really excited to dig back in. And I grew up near there, right, in Rainbow Country. And so it's almost like returning home to get to do more research like that. So that's something that really excites me as well. I don't know. And then there are so many stories around Georgian Bay itself, which is off Lake Huron. The 10,000 Islands, Perry Sound in that area. And again, maybe I'm excited for the ghostly tales, but maybe I'm also excited for the opportunity to go and do some research and talk to the librarians and archivists and stuff like that, because that's something that really kind of gets me going.
I can totally see that, man. I can totally see that. What interests you about the Edmund Fitzgerald? What would bring you there?
You know what? So there's the line in the song, and the line in the song that that the superior doesn't give up its dead.
Yes,
right, and it's such a powerful line. But I think about and when you look at the depth. Right. So here are these lakes in the middle of a giant landmass between Canada and the US. Right. They're just right there, and actually one of them, Lake Michigan, is the only one that's completely surrounded by the US. Right. Most of them border on the US and Canada, etc. Mm-hmm. And then they're there and we're all around them. And that, the most populous part of Canada is on the northern shores of, Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, etc. And you got all this population of the US around it. And yet we know so little about the lakes, the depths, the mysteries that occur beneath the surface. And it's almost like an analogy to the way we look at the paranormal and the way we look at the world in general. There's these depths we can't see. There's these things that are beyond our ability to comprehend or even to detect. And so I think the mysteries of something that's right there. I mean, I can within from where I am in Waterloo, I can get down to Lake Ontario within about an hour's drive and get to the Great Lakes. But can I get to the depths of the stories that these rich waterscapes have to offer? And it's so funny, when I was talking to my publisher, I was like, this book's going to be 8,000 pages. Like, this is going to be a series of books. And she said, well, here's your challenge for the book. Stick to stuff that's only on the lakes themselves. So, when I write about Hamilton, I'm not going to write about the customs house, which is, a couple kilometers inland. I'm only going to write about stuff that's right on the water. I'm only going to write about stories that take place in the lakes themselves, and that should be enough of a challenge. It's still going to be a huge book, so I'm curious to see what I'm going to have to cut and not include, just because it's only going to be about 80,000 words, right? So 350 maybe pages or so. So that's going to be one of the biggest challenges, is what gets left on the cutting room floor.
And the Edmund Fitzgerald still sits 530 feet
down.
So,
yeah. They discovered it, not that many years afterwards, but they know where it is.
Yeah. And the only thing that they've ever been able to recover is the bell from the ship.
Yeah.
Everything else.
And of course, there's legends of the bell being heard as far away as Lake Ontario during some storms. And there's a superstitious that sailors believe that it's the warning from their fellow sailors.
What do you think about ghost ships on the Great Lakes?
They're so fascinating. There's a few ships that are known as what's the Flying Dutchman of the Great Lakes, that kind of thing, right? When you think about the Flying Dutchman story in South Africa and all of that. I think there's a combination, because I'm always fascinated by the things that are natural phenomenon that happen that can make it look like a ship is actually floating, right? That there's just the way that the light waves can come in, that natural phenomenon can happen. But then there are other situations where it's not the right time of day, the lighting is not proper, and that this is a ghost ship that's actually floating above, or looks like it's on fire even. So I love that juxtaposition of things that could potentially be explained just by wavelengths and the way we see things, and then other things that maybe not necessarily so easily explained.
We got about 2 minutes to go before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. Author Mark Leslie is our guest tonight. In a book like that, you can go in so many different directions. You can go the indigenous way. You can go the more human, more UFO way, UFO versus humans way, the sea monster way, the legends way, the sailing and ship routes way. How do you combine that in such a short span?
It's going to be a challenge. I think ghosts are probably going to be about 60 to 70% of the book, and then the other paranormal elements will be flavor to add to it, like that sort of lights on a stage that can spotlight a few special things. But the main content's going to mostly be ghosts. That's what I have to do one of the things I'm going to have to do to cut it down.
It's going to be so much fun, man.
So far it is. So far it really has been a lot of fun. And I haven't even done a lot of the in-person research that I'm looking forward to starting to do, where I do a bit of that travel. Because I know I'm going to encounter people who are going to be able to tell me stories, one-on-one stories in person, or library archives that I was going to go, oh, I had no idea. And again, that's the magic.
I could see it be one of your favorites.
Oh, definitely. Same here too, because it covers a lot of territory, not just a single city. So that's another thing that's new to me.
Do you cover it as from the Canadian side as a Canadian author, or do you cover it from an all-rounded side?
I'm gonna do like a 50-50. It's going to be 50% Canadian, 50% US. I want to be very inclusive of all of the Great Lakes. Yeah,
I
think that's important.
Awesome. Well, when we return from the break, we're going to get into haunted hospitals. I mean, hospitals are just creepy nonetheless. They really are. And, for you to delve into some of these haunted stories that are happening in hospitals as we speak. It's not surprising. We should all expect it. But then we got to learn the stories from the people who have. And that's why Mark Leslie wrote a book about it. We're going to get into that and so much more on Spaced Out Radio. Hard to believe we're already through 1 hour here on the Mighty SOR. 1 hour. Where did that go? I guess time flies when you're having fun. MarkLeslie.ca is his website. You can find his books there. This is Spaced Out Radio. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, we are clear. We're going to turn things over to Dirty Filth here. While he draws a cartoon, Mark, you could go get your water, and I'll be right back as well.
Sounds good.
Hello, Dirty.
Hello, Dave.
Try this again.
My headphone died on me, so
try this again.
I'm not sure if anyone can hear me because I had to.
Hello, Dirty.
Use my computer speakers. Well, looks like everything's fine. And the cats are out of control as usual. 1 second here. I have to get a swig of tea. All right. I hope that's a little bit better. I've been rambling for a little while tonight with some friends of mine, but hopefully everyone's doing well. Hello, Kitty Cattywhack. It's like it's a Saturday. I apologize I wasn't here last Saturday, everybody. I got Nancy Kerrigan on my knee, so that's an inside joke, and if you're probably under 30 years old, you might not understand it, but I got a sore knee last weekend, and I was a wuss, and I couldn't sit down and draw cartoons, so here I am now. And it's some prior engagements tonight. That's right. So I'm just decided to jump in, and Dave was all right with me jumping in about 3.5 hours late. That's all right. So I'm doing the November drawing. What do the letters on your alligator clips represent? Alligator clips. Oh, it's just ZOV. It's a military thing. That's all I can really say about it. Yes. So this drawing here is Carl and Alan out on a ride during November at the O'Hare Airport in Chicago. I think it was 2014 or something, where they sped away and did a little bit of rowdiness, but they almost crashed into gate C-17, but they didn't, so it was all good. So everything's fine. There was no accidents at O'Hare Airport then. Hello, fastest of Hemis. Hope everyone's having a great night. Ooh, my Andrew and Gnome's Trucking Express, my favorite ghost story. I'm not sure if it could be a ghost story, but it's sort of a ghost story. It would have to be H.P. Lovecraft, The White Ship, which is one of the most interesting, surreal stories. If you listen to the whole thing, spoiler alerts if you haven't been around since like the 1800s or whatever, but it's about a guy that lives at a lighthouse. His families live there, blah, blah, blah. Reader's Digest version is guy goes on a creepy trip with boats or across a moonbeam, a bridge of moonbeams, travels to different places, and he eventually comes home. He wonders if it's a dream, but he sees something at the end of his dream when he quote unquote wakes up that makes him wonder if it was a dream or not. Anyways. And my headphone died, so I'm not able to double check my stuff here, so I'm just gonna make sure I keep checking to see when Dave saunters in. I don't know when to be. I'll know it's good to be. Oops. Good to be quiet and cease my ramblings here. Normally, I just do this on Saturdays. Yes. Oh, anyways, since we're here, what I got about 40 seconds or so. If you go to Amazon.com and plug in Crypted Cartoons Volume 2, you can pick up this bad boy. I'm plugging it here, Dave. Look at this. If I remember correctly, I say thanks to Dave in here as well. It's in here anyways.
Hello.
Without taking up too much time. Cryptid Cartoons, Volume 2. And the best part is, at the very end, I got a bunch of cartoons. I made some comics. And there's a Dave and Science Bob comic in there. Look, there's Dave and Science Bob with Carl the Alien.
Nice.
I'll be quiet, Dave.
Way to go, Dirty. Way to go. That's why you're the man. Seymour, how you doing?
I got the Nancy Kerrigan reference, by the way.
Oh, anytime you can drop a Nancy Kerrigan reference, that's a good thing. We got 30 seconds. Leacham, how are you? Anybody else jump in here late? I don't see it. All right. Big thank you tonight to Mel WD40, Fast Hemi, Pam, and T-Bone, my man, for the great super chats. Really appreciate your love and support. Spaced Out Radio. Don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store on our website 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We got no ugly swag. None. So make sure you check it on out. Here we go, everybody. All right, we've kicked off hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to get back into the paranormal with Mark Leslie, author out of the beautiful province of Ontario here momentarily. But first, we want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock it out to Bumblefoot. Read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Navarki. Navarki is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's bring in our guest, Mark Leslie. He is an author of numerous books, 6 of which are about the paranormal and supernatural. His book that is most popular is one on haunted hospitals. Now, Mark, I got to tell you, when my son was being born 12 years ago, what was really interesting was as my wife was in labor with him, at the other end of the hospital, my daughter's great aunt was dying. So as my son was being born, her aunt, who she loved very much, was passing away. So she was kind of doing double duty. She was running from the nursery and the labor room all the way down to where her aunt was. And her aunt was like 99 years old.
Yeah.
And then coming back to see how, things were going with us. And then she was going this back and forth. And I always found that kind of interesting, how we're in an area where it's all happiness. And in this other section of the hospital, it's all sadness and death and the end of humanity for so many people. I mean, that's pretty touching, man. Not just because it happened to me, but a lot of people experience this kind of stuff.
Every single day, every single hour, there's a power in what happens in hospitals. Emotions run high. Like you said, people are elated, they're ecstatic because somebody survived some accident or some surgery or whatever. And similarly, people are devastated, their lives are completely altered and changed because of the loss of a loved one. That alone is probably what can make hospitals ripe for paranormal activity. Not to mention the other fact, I'm just talking about the people who are still alive and the things they experience and feel, and the depth and the heights of those emotions. But then the fact that this is a building where people come into this world and go out of this world on a very regular basis. Therefore, if there are any places where portals have opened up between the life we know and the afterlife or the before life, hospitals have got to be it, right? When you think about that.
And it's funny because my cousin is a doctor, and we've had, he's a man of science. He doesn't believe in any of this. And then he'll listen to my show and he'll be like, Dave, is this really going on? And I'm like, yeah, man, it's truly going on, And I said, you should talk to some of your nurses sometimes and just listen to them about the weird, strange things that are happening. Because, I mean, look, they're seeing ghosts from children all the way up to the elderly. Some are very peaceful, some are very angry. I mean, they are seeing just a real, litmus test of paranormal activity around them. And yet they're not supposed to believe in that because of their job, and they can't talk about it because of their job.
Yeah. It's really funny. I used to hang out at a bar, a haunted bar, actually, the Winking Judge in Hamilton, Ontario, and there were a group of regulars that I hung out there with, right? And you get to know them, you get to know what they did, and one of them was a nurse, and she found out that I wrote these kinds of books, and she's like, "Oh, if you ever do a book about haunted hospitals, I got some stories to tell you about St. Joe's where she worked." And I'm like, "Oh, that's so great! I will." And then a few years later, I'm working on the book, and I said, "Okay, I'll buy you drinks, dinner, whatever you want. I just want to hear some of these stories." And she goes, "Nope." And I said, "Don't worry, I'll anonymize you. I won't use your name. I won't mention anything." And she's like, "Nope, I'm not talking." I was like, but you teased me that you had these great stories." And I think sometimes people don't want to share the stories because sharing the stories makes them more real.
That makes a lot of sense. That does. I mean, these are people who have to go in there each and every day. And if it's happening that frequent, I can understand why they don't want to bring that energy to them at work where it starts happening more and more frequently.
Yeah. It's so funny. I was at a writers conference in St. Pete Beach, Florida. I got back on Sunday or Monday morning around this time. And I was talking to a writer there who knew I wrote paranormal ghost stories, and they were sharing a story of a family member who's a nurse who had a habit of, when somebody died, she always cracked the window open, always wanted to open the window so the spirit could get out, that they always had an easy way to get out. And there was this one time where there was a 2-layered window, and they'd opened the one window but not the other, and they actually saw these handprints inside. And again, it's there's just a space that there's no way a hand could fit inside there, and it fogged up. They heard a thump, and they saw these handprints inside the window. And I was like, okay, that's kind of a weird thing. So the ghost made it all the way into at least that the past the first pane, but not past that second pane because it was still sealed.
And it makes you wonder what nurses and doctors, mainly nurses, have seen. I look at, say, somebody who works as a nurse or a care aide inside, let's say, a hospice or an elderly, care facility,
Right.
where they know when the patients are going. And I remember, talking to some of the nurses when my mother passed away, that they know when somebody is getting close. They could feel it around the room. They said there's an energy change that goes on. Have you talked to any nurses about that energy change, and what have they said?
It's sort of, yeah, it's almost like that feeling of static electricity in the air. There's a feeling that you can feel, but it's there and you can't describe. It reminds me of somebody. We were sitting up talking one night. It was very, very quiet, and I remember she said, "Listen." I said, "What?" She goes, "It's snowing outside." And I said, "Oh yeah, it is." And I didn't know what it was about the sound, because snow doesn't. It's not like it was a storm where it was like pelting, ice pellets hitting. It was just a soft, white, fluffy snow. But for some reason, the sound that was coming from outside in the city was different. It seemed a little bit muffled, and we knew it was snowing. So we opened the curtains and said, "Yep, it's snowing." And I think it's that sort of feeling, like it's there, but you don't know how it's there. If that makes sense.
I totally get that. Totally get that. I wonder how many of them have actually watched spirits leave the human body.
Yeah, I haven't talked to anyone directly who's seen that, but I've heard them talk about feeling something past them, right, on the way out. As if some sort of energy mass was flowing. And that's the thing. We don't really understand or can see. I've read some great science fiction where you can potentially they have some technology to capture the soul wave and stuff like that, but that's something we still can't comprehend. And I think I liken it to, there are I'm a big beer nerd, craft beer nerd. I love beer, but I can't really talk about the flavors and the tastes and the notes. It's the same with a wine lover. Yeah, I like this wine. It's sweet, it's dry, it's whatever. But there are some people who taste the wine and they go, "Oh, there's notes of cinnamon and chestnut and all this whatever, and a little bit of this and a little bit of that." And I was going, "It just tastes good. I like it." And I think there are some people whose taste buds are so refined that they can pick up on things like that. And I think potentially our perception of the spirit world, there are people who are gifted in the way that they can see and experience and feel things that the rest of us can't. Just like that, wine connoisseur or sommelier who understands what's going on, where the rest of us just go, "Yep, that's a dry red." You know what I mean?
It reminds me of people who play guitar, who can tell the difference between the sound of between a Gibson and a Fender. It's the long guitar battle. What's
Yeah.
better? What sounds better, the Fender or the Gibson? I listen to it. I can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
But to those who have perfected their ear to it,
Yes.
it's amazing what they hear.
Exactly. My best friend in Ottawa is that way when it comes to vinyl and really good stereo systems and picking up on things where I just go, "It's a song. I like it. It's good." Yeah. But he's listening to it at a whole deeper level.
Tell me of a couple of your favorite haunted hospital ghost stories from your book.
I think my favorite happened is I was on a late night radio talk show like this one that goes on from midnight till 3 a.m. Eastern. And I was talking about Tomes of Terror, the haunted bookstores and library book. And then there was an open call session at the very end of the story. And a caller had called in and wanted to share a story. He was from Alberta, and he had worked at a hospital and of course I can't remember the name of the hospital. I have to look it up because it's been so many years since this book came out. This was in Ponoka, Alberta, and he shared a story on the show that was so chilling. Now, Liz was in the other room sleeping. I'm in the living room by myself with most of the lights off. It was just radio. It wasn't like a video. And as he's telling the story, my hairs are standing on edge. And I talked to the producer at the end of the show and said, would they be willing to talk to me? Because I am working on a book of haunted hospital stories. And I managed to get the book. I managed to get the story in the book. So in a nutshell, the tale was, there was a woman who was at this hospital, and it was a hospital for it was sort of an asylum. And she was there for most of her life. and a lot of people believe she was possessed. She had would have these uncontrollable rages where she had the strength of like 10 people, and she would just throw people off them and had to be sedated regularly so she didn't hurt herself or other people. There were times when she would go into a room and she would start to complain about the cold, and you'd walk in there and it was completely freezing, so they'd move her to a different room. Lo and behold, the room she moved into suddenly became freezing and the other room was warm again. But the incident he shared that kind of got us was he was doing his rounds one night, just kind of, he's sitting in the TV room, and every once in a while, every 20 minutes, get up and go and do some rounds. And as he's walking by her room, he hears voices, because she would often talk to people that weren't there. But he heard a male voice and her voice. And he was like, that's weird. Did another patient get into her room? So he opens up the door, walks into her room, and he sees she's in the room alone and she's sleeping, but she's standing on the wall about 4 feet up. Her feet are on the wall. She's sticking out into the room. Her hair is hanging down over her face. She's completely still. And all he does at that point is he just backs up, closes the door, goes into the TV room, and doesn't say anything until this radio program, which this is like years later, but he's listening to the radio program. He's hearing some hospital stories, decides to share the story. Had never said anything. Anyways, I ended up, after this conversation, I ended up talking to the producer, getting this person's phone number, and it was okay for me to call them. So I arranged a phone call with him about 2 weeks later. Not only does he share more details about the story and the hospital, and just so I can help flesh out a chapter about it, but he said that somebody else who worked at the hospital, because he didn't tell anyone about this, they heard his voice, they heard the story, they knew who he was, and they approached him afterwards and said, I didn't tell anyone either, but I had a very similar experience. And this other person had this experience where they were working a night shift and they were doing the tours. They thought they heard voices coming from her room, and they walked into her room and she was sleep standing. But this time she was sleep standing completely vertical, but she was floating about 6 inches off the floor. And again, sleeping. And again, this person backed out of the room, didn't say anything to anyone. And it wasn't until they compared their stories that they thought, okay, I'm not crazy. I actually saw this. This is something. So that's got to be one of my favorite haunted hospital stories, particularly because of the way it came to me, in a conversation like this. And then the way that when the first person shared their story, that allowed the other person to have that release too. There's that relief to say, oh my God, that happened to me too. And that's such a powerful thing as well.
The idea that you walk into a room and somebody is levitating?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
That's yeah. I mean, I was like, I'm glad I'm not the only one who saw that, right? Like that's the feeling they have. So that there's something really important in that, I think, too.
Oh my goodness. What are some of the hospitals you cover in this book?
We talk, so we even include prisons. So we include, because there was a time when hospitals and prisons were all merged together. We talk about the Carleton Jail in Ottawa, one of the most haunted buildings in Canada, right? That's one of the ones that we talk about, which has a lot of intriguing stories, and you can stay there. It's a hostel. You can stay there for relatively cheap. We talk about the Charles Camsell Hospital in Edmonton, Alberta. And that was the genesis for this book, because Rhonda and I were at a conference in Calgary, and she learned that, we were talking about the haunted books, and she leans over and whispers, she goes, I live near a haunted hospital. And I leaned back in and I said, ooh, tell me more. And then, we end up talking about haunted hospitals. And then we're like, hey, maybe there's a book here. And it kind of came out of that. There's the Galt Hospital, which is in Lethbridge. There's the Victoria Hospital in Halifax as well. Some interesting stories there. Hamilton as well. And it was so funny. I can share a story from the Haunted Hamilton, or it didn't make it in Haunted Hamilton. I was doing an event at a library for Haunted Hamilton. And oftentimes when I do events and talks about those, there'll be people who kind of stay off in the back and they wait till everyone else is gone, and then they approach me, and it's usually because they say, well, I've got to tell you about this weird thing that happened to me. I didn't want anyone else to hear it. And so this gentleman was waiting, and he came up and said, oh, I worked at the psychiatric hospital on Hamilton Mountain back. It was closed, and it was connected through this underground tunnel to another hospital that was on that site. And he was just doing his tour. And this was in the 70s. He's walking the tour, and he heard voices in one of the rooms, and he went to check it out this one night, and he opened it up, and he saw two people standing there. There was a nurse standing there, and then there was just a person in plain clothes. And the person in plain clothes looked at him, then looked back at the nurse and said, see, I told you he could hear us. And then they disappeared.
Oh my.
And so that kind of freaked him out.
Oh.
And as he's moving out of that section, like getting out of there, like he's not sure what's happening, he felt this incredible force, as almost like a wind, pushing him and to get him out of there. What he did is he left the building at that point. He ran across the street to the corner. He called his boss, and he quit. He's like, I'm not going back in there. And so it was interesting because that story ended up in Haunted Hospitals, but it's not in Haunted Hamilton, because I didn't have it when I was writing Haunted Hamilton. I only had it because I was talking about Haunted Hamilton. Those are some funny stories too, when that sort of thing can happen.
What's the creepiest story you've heard?
Of the hospitals?
Yeah.
I think there's one in Illinois. Kentucky. Kentucky. It's the Waverly Hills sanatorium.
Yeah.
And that, and again, this is one of the chapters that Rhonda had written, but the subtitle for that chapter was The Most Haunted Location on Earth. And there's just so many different stories, but that's the first time I've found some really intriguing tales about the shadow people that allegedly live in that area, or in different areas of that hospital. There's a body chute associated with the hospital that has some intriguing stories, and even some intriguing urban legends. And urban legends are also fun because they got to be based on something, right? What's that?
I said you'd think so.
Yeah. There's like, did it come from some sort of actual experience? Maybe it got expanded upon. But like the Waverly, when I look at the Waverly, I'm just digging through the book here, is like, there's stories about the first floor, there's stories about the second floor, there's stories about the ghost of Timmy, the small child on the third floor, who was allegedly a patient who had died there. And there's even videos where people claim to have caught Timothy. But the most fascinating story was the ghost of Mary, who appears on the third floor as well. And this is, they're not sure if she's Mary Lee or Mary Higgs, but she believed this is a woman who died on that floor, and she plays hide and seek with visitors. And there's even some spectral photographs of Mary that you can kind of see her down the hall of this abandoned hallway, looking at them. And when you look at the picture of the patient, and you look at the picture of Mary the ghost, which we did publish those in the book, you realize, like, oh my God, is that her? And this is where I think this is where there's still a shadow on the floor where her body, or where she had died, that they couldn't clean up as well. So intriguing tales.
Yeah, no kidding. Out of all the ghost stories that you have covered, we got about a minute to go here.
Right.
Is there one that stands out for you? One that just kind of tugs at your heart, or maybe just creeps you out? You don't even like discussing it?
Yeah, there's one that tugs at the heart, which I'll have to tell you about after the break. But then there's another that probably scared me the most as I was researching it, and as I was sitting there at 2 a.m, putting the story together. And it scared me in such a way that I wanted to sit and sleep in my chair in the light in this basement office instead of going through the dark and trying to make my way back into bed.
Well, let's get to that when we return on Spaced Out Radio. That sounds like a good place to segue into our break to keep the audience intrigued until the next half hour when you can spill the beans on this one, because the paranormal, it's easy to have fun with it, but it can be very creepy as well. So, I mean, I think it's something that we definitely need to investigate a little bit more. Mark Leslie is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We have him till the top of the hour. His website is markleslie.ca, not .com, .ca. Make sure you check it on out. You can order his books right on his site. It's a great time if you go into the paranormal adventure.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, my man, we're clear.
Yeah, I thought I'd tease a couple out before the break. So,
Oh, for sure. That was good timing, man. Good timing. I'm having a lot of fun with you tonight, my man.
yeah, this has been great. I've even gotten some comments from folks. Erica had mentioned the SS Eastland, Chicago, 1915 ghost, ship ghost. Someone had pointed out Sault Ste. Marie, which I still have to research in terms of. So it's like, this is great. I'm making notes for things I have to look into. So thank you guys. Thank you guys for sharing.
There are people off the coasts of Newfoundland and Labrador who still claim to see Titanic sailing by.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's funny. When I was writing the Ottawa book, there's a connection to the Chateau Laurier and the Titanic.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard that tale as well. But that was a heartwarming and touching story. And I think the reason that he's one of the alleged ghosts there is he never did make it back for the grand opening after doing all that work.
Do you consider yourself a paranormal investigator or just an enthusiast who gets to write about it?
I think of myself more as an enthusiast than an investigator. I've gone with some actual proper investigators who do, they have the equipment and they're, professional in their approach. I'm more of a hobbyist and I like to go along with them and I learn from them, but I don't consider myself an investigator. So more like a citizen who goes along on a ride along with the detectives.
I'm usually the same way. I call myself an enthusiast, but in kind of taking the lead on this project that we're working on out here, it's been a complete change of thought and a complete change of how to do things, because we're kind of learning on the fly as we go, because we're not investigators, man. Like the shit we had happen while we have not been on camera is ridiculous. Is ridiculous. The stuff we haven't caught on camera compared to the stuff we have.
Yeah, that is. I went. I was in a haunted for a con once. I was in a haunted, allegedly a haunted hospital or a hotel in Niagara Falls, New York, and the little ghost of Angela. 2 a.m. My friend of mine and I, who are into horror, and she had one of the little EF. EMF readers. And we were trying to conjure Angela and get her to speak to us. Walking around in the morning, we got nothing, except we were both on a panel talking about Canadian horror. the next day, and she had that the reader on the desk in front of us. And while we were talking about Canadian ghost stories, it started going off, and we're like, "Sure, she shows up now. She's giving us something now."
Always the case. We had a situation where um, it's a funny story from our area where we decided to take a break after walking in the forest and walking into two areas where we couldn't breathe in the middle of the forest. It was like there was no air in the
Oh wow!
yeah. So we go back to our base camp. We sit up in our chairs and we're preparing to go set up a trail camera. So Tim puts the camera down and we hear something big move in the trees, probably 35 yards from us. And it starts farting. And it starts ripping ass. And Tim and I are looking at each other and looking at the trees, looking at each other, looking at the trees. And I'm like, can you believe this right now? I said, you're not rolling, are you? He goes, nope.
Oh no!
Oh, 12 to 15-second fart of an
Oh my
animal
god!
right in the trees. It would have been perfect for our film. Would have been perfect. I'd have blamed it on Tim. But
Yeah.
All right, here we go with the next half hour. Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for joining us. We greatly appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. We're going to get back to our guest, Mark Leslie, here momentarily as we have until the top of the hour. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Mark Leslie is our guest tonight. We are hanging on out, talking some spooky paranormal stories. His website, markleslie.ca, where you can find all of his incredible books to add to your library. Mark, thank you so much for being here.
It's great to chat with you, Dave. The hour and a half has gone by so fast.
Thank you. That's a compliment. That really is a compliment to a good conversation, and you're a big part of that. Stories that really tugged the strings of yourself.
Yeah. The first one is more touching, and that is one. It was something we found in Spooky Sudbury, and it was just this story of a mother who shared the story of her little girl, and her little girl was singing this song, and the mother said, "Well, where did you hear this song?" Because the mother remembered that was a song that her father sang to her, and she loved, and it made her feel so special. And she had just kept that in her heart. She hadn't really told anyone about it. That was a special thing between her and her father. And her father had passed away before her daughter was born. And one of her biggest regrets was her father never got to see her beautiful little daughter. And daughter's singing this song, and the mother said, where did you sing this song? And she's like, oh, that really nice man that I see in those pictures on the wall, he comes and sings them to me before I go to bed, and they help me sleep. And there's a beauty in that story that the child has no idea this is her grandfather who is there singing the same song he sang to his daughter. And so again, it's not creepy or eerie at all, but it's beautiful. And it's that human connection that can exist beyond, the world that we know. So that's one that just sticks with me. When I think about the beauty of what we can have in these ghostly tales.
Has it really opened up your mind to an afterlife?
I think so, especially when you look at it, almost pretty much every culture around the world, there are stories about afterlife-ish stories, or stories of what happens when we pass when we shuffle off this mortal coil. And so I think ghost stories are also hope. I mean, whether you're religious or not, there are people who are more inclined to at least listen or lean in when you start talking about ghost stories, even if they're skeptical. Like Liz is very skeptical about these things, but she also knows that there is something more out there that we just can't understand. We just haven't figured it out yet. So I think there's something universal in that, in all of us, and in a world that needs more connectivity and people to listen and connect with one another more. I think ghost stories can be one of those things that we can have in common.
How about a story that just would make you go, I'm never going there again?
That one, I don't, I've never been there, and thank goodness, because the building's no longer there, but I've never been on the lot, and I'm not going to go there. This is a story I was writing for Haunted Hamilton. And so I was working full time as a bookseller at the time. And so to get the book done, I had to take some days off work. And otherwise, I was just working till 2 a.m, on the book to get it into the publisher on time. And I had these old newspaper photocopies of the Hamilton Spectator, of this story that had actually been documented in the newspaper in the 70s. And the story, this man wakes up and he hears his wife in the bed beside him screaming. And he looks over and she's like just looking up at the ceiling and screaming and panicking. And he thinks she might be not like in a coma or whatever, but she's not responsive at all until he finally snaps her out of it. And he says, "What's wrong?" And she said, there was this woman was floating over the bed. She was staring right down at me. And I felt like I couldn't move, just terrified her. And it continued to happen. Night after night after night, she would wake up in the middle of the night. This woman would be hovering. And a few times when she woke up, she screamed and the woman took off and she would disappear off into the corner of their bedroom, like into the wall. And eventually, as she got to see the woman more and more, she only saw the sort of the top half of her body and her arms. And she had this deep sunken dark eyes and this long gray scraggly hair. And that's what she kept seeing. And there was an illustration of, artist's rendition of this in the paper. And that I had that picture with me. Anyways, as the story goes, they brought in exorcists. They brought in like a team from the US came into Hamilton, Ontario to do some research, and priests and stuff like that to try to bless the house, try to figure things out. They brought in mediums, and the mediums seemed to pick up some sort of sensitivity about this woman who was looking for something. She was missing something, and she was just continually looking for it. And she was trying to communicate with this other woman who was a mother, that there was something important there. That's all that the medium came up with. Flash to 10 years later, there's a picture of this man standing, who was the husband in it, standing in this wreckage of this building that was taken down, and he's holding a piece of a tombstone in his hand. And they found out the tombs, based on details from the tombstone, that this was a woman who had actually broken her legs and was in a wheelchair for most of her life. Thus, only the upper part of her body worked. So there's that part of the ghost. Her children had died young, and what had happened is when the building was being built on part of the graveyard, they had dug part of the tombstones of her children into the wall. And those tombstones were in the wall, that very same wall that they disappeared into. And so this whole long story of this drama, just because of the tombstones, I call that chapter the Tombstone Ghost. So as I'm writing the story, it was still a sort of a touching ending when they actually found out what happened. But what happened was, I finished writing the chapter, and I was just thinking about opening my eyes and waking up and seeing this ghost, the spectral figure, and then looking at the sketch that was made. We know the power of a really good artist, right? And I was so scared, I didn't want to go up to bed. I was too scared. I didn't want to walk through the dark. I sat in my chair and I thought, well, I could sleep in the chair with the lights on. That'll be fine. You know what I mean? I actually stayed there for an hour and I was actually shaking. And it was the most afraid I've ever been writing about something to a place I hadn't been to. And I'd only experienced through these articles and interviews. And as I was putting it all together, I just kept imagining it. And that one really, it still scares me to this day.
What's the greatest ghost story in Canada never told? In your
Oh,
opinion?
geez. What is the greatest ghost story Canada never told? Well, it's never been told. So how am I going to find that one?
Well, one maybe you haven't written about, or one that you've heard about, that you just haven't had an opportunity to do anything with.
Well, you know what? The Montreal Forum one sounds really cool, to be quite honest. The one that you had mentioned earlier.
Well, let me throw a couple at you.
Yeah.
When I was a kid in elementary school, there was a book out there of the lost treasure of Casa Loma.
Oh, yeah.
And there was always talk about ghosts being there. And nobody ever talks about the ghosts of Casa Loma or the Niagara Falls battlefield between the French and English, which was just almost as deadly as many of the Civil War battles.
Oh,
People
wow.
still hear the cannons going off today.
Huh. That's intriguing that you mentioned that. I'm familiar with the Stony Creek battlefield closer to Hamilton, but not the Niagara one.
Yeah.
That is intriguing, actually. I mean, that's the beauty. And I discovered this earlier this year. I had to drive. I drove across Canada. I had to do a talk in New Brunswick in the spring. So I drove because I had never been there. I'd only been to Nova Scotia. And I got to see quite a bit more of the eastern part of Canada. And then my wife and I drove back from Vancouver Island and all the way across the prairies, etc. I mean, there's just so many undiscovered places in Canada alone. Then you add on top of it all of the really cool legends and lore and stories, not to mention the stories we barely know or barely even have access to unless we listen to the peoples who've been here on these lands for thousands of years before, right?
I think one of the most creepy ones I've heard from British Columbia was I was talking to a couple of First Nations people from up in Fort St. John, which is way up north by the Yukon border. And they were telling me when I get an opportunity to talk to First Nations people, I always try and lead it into Sasquatch or Dogman or Star People or whatever it may be. And I said to these two gentlemen, I said, do you have any creepy stories? And they said, well, we don't got a lot of Sasquatch stories from up there, but we do have one. And I said, well, what is it? And they start telling me about how when they were children, they were told as it got to dusk and dark not to go into the trees.
Oh,
because that's when the green men would come and get you. And apparently these green men were like almost reptilian like. And, between 5 and 8 feet tall. And some of them had their skin glowing. Others did not. And they would hunt you down at night and take you away and you'd never be seen again.
Oh, man. Okay. That's creepy.
Yeah. That one scared me.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that's stuff like that where you just hear it and go, okay. There's a reason these stories get passed along, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you if you look at it, and that's what I think for a lot of our American listeners and even our European listeners who are tuning in, there are so many of these legends around Canada that you don't know of, from ghost trains to First Nations legends that of the monsters that they talk about. I mean, there is so much going on that is weird and strange, but it just doesn't get the opportunity because it's expensive. Never mind the stories, but it's expensive for these camera crews and these TV crews to all of a sudden head up north into Alberta or Manitoba or British Columbia or even northwestern Ontario, where there isn't a large population, there isn't a lot of roads, there isn't even motels.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So you have to rent a motorhome and it costs and expense and power and gear and everything. It's expensive to film up here.
Yeah. So a lot of it is yet uncaptured.
I think my concern of it all, Mark, and maybe you have this concern too, is as we start seeing these metropolises grow and grow and grow, whether it's in the United States, whether it's in Canada, North America in general, the thing that I worry about for the love of this topic is how many of these stories are we losing because we are not talking about them?
Right. That they disappear as we expand and grow in a different way. And it's so funny when I think about my love of ghost stories, I remember the fact that in high school I was constantly failing history class. I couldn't find anything interesting in the way that history was taught, and it wasn't till I went on my very first ghost walk in Ottawa on Spark Street. And Ottawa, obviously, lots of great history with the nation itself. And I realized for the first time that you can't tell a good ghost story without understanding history. And I learned to love history and the people and all of these untold tales, at least as far as I was concerned, because they were usually wrapped in a ghost story. And that was really powerful for me.
Scott here in our chat room states, First Nations legend of little people. I've seen and heard them in Wiki on Manitoulin Island.
Ooh, thank you, Scott. That's going to be something I look up for the ghost stories of the Great Lakes. Wiki on Manitoulin Island. Thank you. I'm just making a note here.
Let's get to a couple of audience questions here. Let's go and start with Stargazer here. Mark, are you familiar with the abandoned state asylum in Ukiah, California? If not, you need to look into it. Be a great place to investigate. I heard they did MK Ultra experiments there.
Oh wow. No, I don't think we wrote about that. It doesn't sound familiar. But yeah, we just did the Lincoln Heights jail in the US. No, so thank you for that. No, that sounds very intriguing. Making a note of that one as well.
When next time you're on the West Coast, check out the Ghosts of Ocala.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's now turned into a townhouse complex.
Yeah.
The former Ocala prison, because back in the day when Canada had capital punishment, they had a hanging gallows there.
Oh, intriguing.
Yeah. People say there's a lot of old criminals walking around those places.
Oh,
Even
wow.
pay me to live there. But that's okay. All right, let's get to another question here. Let's go to T-Bone, who is asking, are you worried about attachments?
Yeah, I am. I guess it's sort of a risk that one takes when they do that. Now, again, I don't go into a lot of haunted locations myself, but I have written about books that were haunted. Go to a used bookstore and you bring a book and you bring a ghost home with you. So, and I have been researching for a haunted item collection of stories about haunted items as well. So I am worried about that, T-Bone. You never know what can come home with you. What can be connected to you as well.
D. Saifa asks a question. Have you ever seen orbs in connection with the ghosts?
I've always been skeptical about orbs. However, I was doing an event with some local paranormal group. They wanted to interview me for their podcast, but they wanted to do it in a haunted theater near Aurora, Ontario. And so I met up with them there, and I travel with a plastic skeleton, but life-size skeleton Barnaby Bones. When I do a lot of events, he's there because then you see the skeleton. The guy's probably a horror writer or whatever. Anyway, so it was kind of funny. We sat Barnaby in the theater, and we're sitting there near the stage, and we got all the equipment, and we're going to record the podcast. And then he pulls out his phone and he says, look at the orb lights on my phone. And they're coming out of the ground right near where Barnaby is sitting, and they're shooting up into the ceiling. They weren't just floating around, right? Like dust particles or whatever in the air capturing. And I'm thinking, these guys know I'm a big chicken. It's an app on his phone, because there are some apps that can show you ghosts and stuff like that are just more for fun and frivolity. And I was like, oh, he's just trying to pull one over and get me scared. So I open up my own phone and I pointed at Barnaby, and on the screen I see. Now, here's the thing I can't understand, and I've done research and I can't figure this out. It's not a floating orb that you sometimes see, and I've talked about that in the Bell Mansion in Sudbury and some orbs that appear in photographs there. But this was like this weird straight lines of light that were shooting up in a very specific direction. They weren't just floating around, and I can't find anything to explain what tech phenomenon it might be on my phone, if it was a glitch, or what that is. I haven't seen any stories about it. So I've seen some light orbs, but can't figure out what the heck they were.
All right, let's move over to Mike here. He's a good Ontario kid. Are there any weird stories about the Great Lakes doing your research here in Northern Ontario, specifically Sault Ste. Marie and around the lakes in that area?
Yeah, there's some stuff, the Mackinac Island as well, which is just on the other side. And there were a few from Sault Ste. Marie that I made notes of, but I haven't researched yet. But I'm definitely going to look forward to it. Unfortunately, I was supposed to visit Sault Ste. Marie a few weeks ago, but Highway 17 was shut down as I was coming around. Lake Superior, so I had to turn around and go up Highway 11 all the way north. So, Mike, I'm hoping to make it to Sault Ste. Marie in early November so I can get some research done, and I'm hoping to get some more details about some stories there.
About 15 years ago, 16 years ago now, I'd never traveled east. I'd only been in the West.
Oh, really?
And yeah. And so I grew up in a family where my dad feared flying, so we had to drive everywhere for holiday. So I never got to fly anywhere. And I remember my first time seeing the Great Lakes. I didn't realize how massive they were until you actually saw them. It was absolutely incredible. I think we got time for one more question here. Let's go to Luna here, who is asking, do you think ghosts pick and choose who they show up to in terms of their energetic frequency, character, etc.? You think some ghosts choose victims because they are good messengers?
Yeah, I suspect that, or I mean, maybe do they choose, or is it that the person has the ability, and does the ghost even know that they have the ability to see them? Like, are they reaching out to other people and they just can't see them? I think potentially in certain circumstances, I would love to believe, as somebody who grew up reading about superhero vigilantes, that potentially there's ghost vigilantes out there too that specifically choose victims who deserve to be scared because of some things that they did. Haunting, that, like Edgar Allan Poe stories, haunting the person who did them ill.
Can we get one more in? Let's try Paul. The United States Navy has quite a presence on the Great Lakes. Any stories from service members that you're going to go after?
Not yet, Paul, but that is something I plan on exploring. I'm sure I'm going to get some tales from people, obviously, who spent a lot of time on the lake. So I'm going to be reaching out. If you have any contacts, Paul, love to get a hold of some, because I'm sure they've got some really intriguing tales that they'd be able to share.
I want to say a big thank you, Mark, for coming on Spaced Out Radio. I know you have a flight in the morning that you need to catch to Utah for another conference, but I want to say thank you. It was not only a pleasure to meet you, but just to have a lot of fun talking some ghosts and paranormal experiences with you.
It's been absolutely a blast. I am honored that you had me on the show. Thank you so much, and it was great to spend a couple hours chatting with you.
Do me a favor, 25 seconds. Tell everybody where they can find your books.
You can ask for them at any local library, but you go to markleslie.ca or just search for Mark Leslie on various websites, and they're available in many different formats: paperback, hardcover, ebook, audiobook.
That is amazing. Thank you very much for coming on Spaced Out Radio, Mark. Safe travels in the morning for you as you make your way to Utah. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, we're going to kick things off. Swamp Dweller's going to be here. Then Robin Haynes will be in for the Crypted Q&A. We always have fun with Robin, don't we? Spaced Out Radio continues with Hour 3 next.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Great job tonight, my friend. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'd love to stick around for the rest of the chat, but I need to get my ugly sleep. It's not beauty sleep. I just drool and everything. It's really ugly. But
when your ghost book on the Great Lakes comes out, let us know. We'd like to have you back on.
I'll definitely send you a copy when it comes out, and for sure. Thank you, and thanks everyone for great questions and comments.
All right, my friend. You take care. Safe flight.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Take care. Mark Leslie, everybody. Let's bring in the dirty one. Look at that beauty by Dirty Phil. He's so dirty. You're dirty. And then he mutes himself. I'll be right back.
I had to make sure that the music wasn't playing, otherwise we get striked and that'd be the entire end of the thing, and Dave would not pay me in my slices of pizza. So, as I said previously, here is Carl and Alan driving up to Gate C-17 at O'Hare Airport in Chicago. So, this is the November cartoon for next year. So, if you buy the if you buy the calendar for next year, this is going to be it. Otherwise, it's going to go into the collection and it'll be there in the future. But I hope everyone's having a wonderful evening. I went out and I had a sliced pizza or 4, and yes, it was a good night. Let's dig into what everyone's doing here. Normally I'm not on this late. Usually I'm tucked into bed, watching a spooky movie. The cats are piled on me. Mark said Dexter. I'm not sure. La Vie. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. I'd have to rewatch the show. Anyways, this coming Saturday, I will be drawing cartoons. Hold on one second here. The gargoyle is out of control. I have this bag. It's a plastic bag. The gargoyle's had it for about 2 years now, and it's basically a second fortress because the gargoyle has multiple fortresses inside my house. If everyone's wondering who the gargoyle is, it's my gray cat. And here he comes. And there he goes. Like lightning. Anyways, gargoyle's out of control. Cats are out of control. They're late for snacks. And once Dave gets back here, snacks will be delivered and the cats will be happy. Yes. Anyways, oh yeah, I was gonna show off my book a little bit more here. Some of the cartoons that were in it, as I promised previously. By the way, you can go to Amazon, plug in Crypted cartoons, and you can find my book, second book, or the first book. And there we go. Yeah, look at that. You get a Bigfoot cartoon. starring Bigfoot and the Man in Black. Also, hold on a second here. But if I must show something, look at the nice ass on the Man in Black there. Look at that, nice and tight. And look at Sasquatch, hauling him ass all the way out of the forest. Because Bigfoot's a good guy. In the end, he really is. Anyways, rambling away here. Oh, look at that. Dave and Science Bob Adventures. There also might be some other people in here. Look at that. Is that Lou Elzardo? It might be Lou Elzardo. And I got Dave in there. Look at that. Good job, Dave. You ruined the only time-traveling machine that humans had. And then we have Nightcrawler's Undertaking. And we got other cartoons. Anyways. Look at that. There's a little halo around there. Can't do anything about it, but what do you do? Crypted Cartoons, Volume 2 on Amazon, America, Japan, wherever you live in the entire universe. You can scoop one. If you live in Alberta, I will hand deliver one to you.
What if they live in Okotoks?
Put it back in there. But most importantly, we have the November cartoon.
Not even listening.
Carl Allen driving their UFO may or may not have been stolen. Oh, hold on a second here, Dave. I'll be quiet.
Oh, hey, you can stick around. You can stick around. Robin's hanging out with us. Let's bring Robin in. Hi, Robin.
Hey, guys. Good to see everybody again.
It's been a long time.
I know. I'm loving everything. Look at the backdrop, all of it. So cool.
Yeah, it looks much better. Much better. We got 27 seconds. Thank you to T-Bone ×2, Fast Hemi, Mel WD40, and Pam for the lovely super chats. We greatly appreciate it. Robin, we're going to do Swamp Dweller here. It'll be about 3.5 minutes, and then we'll get right to you, okay?
Sounds good to me.
Perfect.
Love Swamp Dweller.
I'm going to mute you, my dear, and here we go. Here comes the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Navarki. Navarki is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. In the sultry summer of 2002, I was a mere 11 years old, marked by youthful curiosity and boundless imagination. My family had embarked on a life-altering journey, forsaking the city's comforting embrace for the enigmatic allure of a minor, isolated hamlet known as Greeley, nestled deep within northeast Pennsylvania's dense, foreboding woods. The whispers of Native American tribes still lingered in the rustling leaves and the distant echoes of forgotten rituals, adding an eerie layer to our new surroundings. Our time in Pennsylvania had extended over several months, and as August drew to a close, the imminent return to school cast a shadow over the carefree days of summer. On that particular night, I was nestled in my dimly lit room, the TV screen casting a flickering shadow across the wall. The clock's hands suggested that it was around 9 or 10 in the evening, and the world outside surrendered to inky darkness. As the eerie silence enveloped me, a sound shattered the tranquility. A faint but unmistakable tapping against my bedroom window. My heart, innocent and unaccustomed to fear, somersaulted within my chest. Uncertainty gripped me as I tiptoed towards the source of this sinister disturbance. Initially drawn to ward off the darkness, the blinds now beckoned me to be raised. With trembling hands, I gingerly lifted the blinds and gazed into the abyss. What met my gaze was beyond my realm of childish nightmares. Two piercing, malevolent orbs burned in with a sinister glow, their unnatural luminescence tearing through the shroud of night. I reeled back in sheer terror, slamming the blinds shut with frantic desperation that fueled my every motion, seeking refuge from the unearthly presence that had violated my sanctuary. I fled to the living room and huddled on the couch, my heart pounding in a frantic rhythm. The dread that descended upon me that fateful night was inescapable, and sleep was an elusive mirage. When the first light of dawn pierced the sky, I mustered the courage to confide in my mother, recounting the horrors that unfolded in the darkness. Her reassurances, though well-intentioned, fell flat. She dismissed the haunting experience as the antics of the neighbor's cat, attributing my terror to a child's vivid imagination. However, with unwavering certainty in that moment, I knew this was no ordinary feline prowler. The malevolent gaze I had encountered had been way too high up in the trees, far beyond the reach of any earthly cat. My young mind could not yet comprehend the sinister forces at play that night. Years would pass, and my understanding of the paranormal would deepen. In retrospect, I witnessed something truly evil that night manifest. What I believe it was a skinwalker, a shape-shifting harbinger of dread. It gnaws at the edges of my memories, a haunting specter that sends shivers down my spine anytime I think of it.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another spooky story. If you want more just like that, head on over to his YouTube channel, Swamp Dweller. Hit subscribe, ring that bell. He's got thousands of stories for you just like that. It's time to bring in Robin. Robin Haynes, it's great to have you back on Spaced Out Radio. It's been about a month.
Thank you. I've missed you. Let us talk about the sign, the Spaced Out Radio sign. That is tremendous.
Thank you.
The one behind you. I don't remember that from before.
No. So for our radio listeners who can't see what Robin is talking about, which she can view on YouTube, you can too, is we put a television screen in behind me now. So that way you can actually see our logo going through a bunch of different scenarios, so to speak. Robin, I'm going to get you to turn your sound down just a little bit because we are getting a little bit of feedback on that.
How's that? Is that better?
Greatly appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is that better, babe?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good.
How you been?
I'm good. Had a little bizarre Sasquatch activity over here.
What's going on?
Well, it was really crazy. I have my car, but I have my old car, and it's out in the yard, and I have it backed up to this tree line and brush line, and they've got tunnels that they've plowed through there, and they play in there all the time. I mean, they always have since I've been here for the last 7 years. And the car's been there with no problem. When I look out my window at the bedroom, I can see it. And I know how far it is. My daughter's car is right next to it, and they sit in exactly the same spot. There's not one ahead of it, not one behind it. And I noticed the other day when I went to leave, the car looked like it had been moved. And I'm like, what is going on? So I go out there and they have pushed this car like 3 feet ahead of the other car. Like, I have no idea why. Nobody has the keys. The keys are locked up in a lockbox, so nobody can get the keys to do it. And you can see where it's been pushed across the ground. But the car has literally been moved like 3 feet forward. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen. Footprints all around it, handprints all over the car. I don't know if I backed it up too close to where they've got their brush in there and they've got it all gutted out on the inside. It looks like a giant tunnel through there. They play in it all the time. And I don't know if I backed it up too close and I have no idea. But I mean, it was that morning, it was back. I looked outside a little while later and it's moved forward.
Well, that's weird.
It is really strange. That's the first time that has ever happened. Like handprints on the cars all the time. Constantly. I get some great fingerprints off of it. But the car's literally pushed forward. And I went out there and I looked at the ground and you can see where it was skidded. I mean, it was pushed. And I don't know of anything else that can move a pushed car. Or push on a car that's, in park.
Right. Nothing creepy about that, Robin.
Not at my place.
Nothing
They've picked up activity the last few days. They were kind of quiet for a little while, but they seem to be having a good time now. So have you been out to your site?
We haven't been out there in a couple of weeks. Tim and I, about 2 weeks ago, had just we were both just worn out.
Yeah.
And we decided that we were just going to take a night away from everything. And then this past weekend, we were about to go, and Tim had one of those like 8-hour just nasty bugs that just kind of hits you.
Well, that's all right. You need a break every now and then. You've been working your tush off anyway, getting this whole setup done.
Yes. Yeah, we worked really hard. I'm going to get you to turn your volume down just a little bit again, because we are getting some feedback back again all of a sudden.
Okay, try that.
All right, I think that's a little bit better. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know
I don't know why it's doing. It's fine on on my end. It sounds fine, but I can't tell.
Yeah. No, on this end, it's kind of picking up my voice a little. But
let me see if I can turn it down another way. That might be helpful. If I go into the settings and do it that way, maybe that will.
I think just the volume. Are you using your phone? That way you can just turn the volume down that way. I think Robin froze herself. There you are. All right.
Yeah. Is that better?
We got you. So we do plan on going back out this weekend, and you know what? One of the hardest things that we have had, Robin, is to try and find team members to join us.
Yeah.
It's been very difficult to find team members, not only because is it a great commitment, but it's something that the phenomena when we've brought people up there, some people they're very accepting of, others it's like they don't want anything to do with them, and it's kind of like, why did you bring this person up there? My dad included. I brought my dad up there, because he wanted to have an experience, and we found him a Sasquatch print. He thought it was one of the greatest things ever,
Yeah.
But seriously though, why is it that in certain areas like that, wonder why the phenomena will just say, no, this area is not for that person?
It's the frequency. It really is. It's, and I know I harp on the frequency all the time, but honestly, that's what rules everything with these cryptids. It truly is. And if whoever you bring up there, if their frequency does not jive or work for the ones that are up there, they reject them. They just don't want, doesn't mean that person's a bad person. It means that they are not comfortable with their frequency or their intent. And you can bring up wonderful people. But if you want to be judged, be around a Sasquatch or even a dogman, because they're going to judge you harder than anybody. They're going to read your intent. They're going to know your frequency and your energy level. And if it doesn't pass their muster, or if they think that, well, you might have a good person there, but that person isn't going to be open-minded enough for them, they're done. You know, they decide who they're going to let in their circle.
Is it the connection? Is it a spiritual connection?
I think some of it is, yeah, I do. I think, you know, they scan people when they come around. They scan you not just in frequency, but your energy, your intent, your thought process, and they go through your consciousness. And if they think all those things will match with them, then they're invited in. Then they're fine with it. That could be the nicest person on planet Earth. But if one of those things doesn't mesh with them, or if they think that that person won't per se understand them, or that person might not accept them, they don't want anything to do with it. They really don't. If you get accepted by the Sasquatch, you're doing good, because they are definitely the ultimate tester. And it could be a wonderful person. It's not always that they think this person is bad. Now, a lot of them, they'll tell you, you know, that person's Occam, which means bad in their language, and they don't want them there. But even if it's a good person, if they don't think that spiritually or energetically or just their thought process isn't going to work with them, then they reject them.
Is it because they don't like their energy? Is it because they don't care for the person themselves or what they're giving off? Or
Yeah.
is it just, and I want to add this to it, Robin, or is it that they just don't feel that that person is ready for the experience?
That will play a massive part in it. When I was in Michigan, I let very few people come to my property because they all walked around uncloaked all the time. There was very rarely a time of day you weren't going to see somebody. So I had select people that were allowed on my property and more that were not. And if I brought somebody on there and they thought that they would be frightened of them, or that mentally they would not be, you know, open enough to them, they wanted nothing to do with it. I mean, they really, for all the reasons that you listed, you know. And the other thing is, depending on which individual comes forward is whether or not that person's going to be accepted. You know, just like with our people, there's some people that we meet and we just know right off the bat we're going to get along with. But let somebody else come into that situation and they may not get along with that person. It could be just personal preference, but they do, for all the reasons that you mentioned. That has a lot to do with it. And I think the other thing too, you know, when you bring people in to those areas like that, everybody has their own preconceived notions on how they want things to flow. And they may be the most wonderful person on the planet, but maybe in their mind, they would want you to do the research a little bit different than what you're doing. Again, doesn't make them a bad person. We all do things differently. However, when it comes to Sasquatch, they read your mind. They read your consciousness. They read your intent. And they know how to work with you, because how you and Tim are doing it works beautifully with them. That's been proven. But let somebody else come in that might have some newer ideas or different thought process on how to do it. Not saying their thought process is wrong, but the Sasquatch may look at it and say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. We like what's going on here. They like that predictability. They don't like change. They do not do well with change. And so if somebody comes in there with the best of intentions, and they go through and they read them and they're like, oh, this person wants to change it up from how we're doing, that's going to be a no-go. They are all about the predictability.
So what about for Tim and I, where he and I haven't been out there in a couple of weeks. Is that going to make a difference?
I don't think so. I think they're probably, wondering where you've been. But, we've talked about before, on your way out there, you're going to be talking in your mind to them. We're coming out, we're doing this. You can be at home and talk to them and say, sorry, we haven't been there, guys, but we're going to be coming. We didn't forget you. Everybody's okay. Reassure them that you're okay. They're okay. And I think you're going to be fine. They may hesitate for a few minutes to kind of figure out why you weren't there, but I don't think you're going to have too many problems. I really don't. They are very comfortable with you both. They enjoy the interaction with you both. And your interaction is just, the magnitude of it has gotten incredible. It really has. And you've built up a trust with them, and you do things in a way that keeps them comfortable. And you are somewhat predictable, and that's what they want.
We're going to be introducing another person. He's probably the size of a Sasquatch. A friend of mine named Kevin. We're going to see how how they react to him. He's a very quiet individual. Doesn't, for a man who's 6'5" and probably 350 pounds.
May I make a suggestion?
Yes.
And I found that this has been helpful in my experiences. Doesn't mean it's going to always work. When you bring someone new out there, not only are you introduce them, obviously, hug them, give them a hug and say, look, I'm not being hurt. This person is safe with me. This is a friend. Give them a hug. I know it's a weird thing because it's two guys. You don't have to grope each other, but just give each other a quick hug. Say, look, we're friends. I'm comfortable around them. I'm safe with them, because they are going to read off of you. Just like when we have kids and our kids are little, if they fall down and skin their knee, the first thing they do is look to the parents to see the parents' reaction. And if those parents are calm about it, they stay calm. If the parents are panicked, they panic. It's the same thing with the Sasquatch. So if they see that this person is a friend to you and that you're comfortable with them, like I said, give them a quick hug. Say, look, he's a friend. They tend to do a little bit better.
Will do. I have no problem doing that. Let's go to Jules here. We got 3 minutes to go before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Robin Haynes and the Crypted Q&A. Robin, Jules is asking, did the Sasquatch I saw want me to see him, or was he taken by surprise?
Definitely a surprise. Something about he was looking at some kind of bird or something, and it was a surprise.
What happens when you startle them?
Depending on the individual, some of them will just look at you and turn and then take off. Some will just freeze. Like they think if they don't move, you're not going to realize they're there. Others will make a noise to try to startle you, thinking that gives them the upper hand. A large majority will just cloak right in front of your eyes. It depends on the individual. They generally, if you startle them like that, they're usually not aggressive. They're more in either that flight mode, or they may yell. I had a female that yelled at my son one time because he startled her, and she didn't hurt him. She yelled at him, kind of like, to get him to back off and not be near her, which scared him because they don't usually yell at him. But yeah, what I'm getting is that one was definitely surprised, and I keep seeing a bird. Like, I think it was focused on this bird.
Makes sense. All right, let's go to another question here before we go to break here. Let's go to Sarah, who is asking, do Sasquatch like high vibe people?
You mean like put their hand up and high five?
No, like a high vibration.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the vibration, it's all, vibration is frequency. Everything with them comes down to frequency, energy, and intent. I mean, that's really the huge determining factor. If you are low vibration, and honestly, I have some that I work with and I interact with, and they will tell you that when they're around people with a low vibration, it gives them a headache and they don't feel good and it makes them feel bad and they don't want to be around that. So they will move away from it. And they're fearful of it because low vibrational people, just like, you know, the people that are not nice, unkind people are of a low vibration. So when they're around a low vibrational person, they get very concerned. You know, they're more cautious around them.
Sounds good. Robin, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to continue with the Cryptid Q&A on Spaced Out Radio. Robin Haynes joins us weekly at this time for a lot of fun and questions regarding Sasquatch, Dogmen, and any cryptid we can find.
Yep.
This is Spaced Out Radio. We'll be right back.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear. All right. Night Drive, how you doing? Nice to see you. Hi, Luscious Jules. Hi, Woo Poo. And Spiraling 69, good to see you. Who else jumped in here late? I just saw them. Where are they? Where are they? I just saw them. Where are you? Oh, yeah. Wayne Sacrilege, how you doing? Hold on. Oh, Robin, I accidentally muted you. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Do you mind sticking around for a few minutes after the show?
Oh, sure.
I got a couple questions I need to ask you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. JBD, how you doing? We don't know what squatches are around here.
Yeah, I think I've got some new ones around here because the dogs were out the other night and usually they go right to them. Like if they're on the other side of the fence, they go to the fence wagging their tail. And they went out the other night and they weren't scared. They just weren't going to get off the porch. They would not get off the deck at all. Their tails were wagging a little bit, but they were a little bit concerned. So I think I've got some new ones around here. I couldn't pick up anything bad.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. They're all moving about this time of year.
Very cool. It is that time, preparing for winter.
Yeah. We had a heat wave here this week, and they are not happy about the heat wave. But I've noticed when the heat wave gets really bad or if it gets too cold, they don't really want to be out hunting in it. And all my pet food outside disappears. I'll go out there to check and make sure there's food in all the bowls and stuff, and it's like gone. It's just gone.
Oh, no. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. Well, that's not good.
And I've got those feral cats, and I've got a bowl that holds like a 5-pound bag of food in it, anywhere from 4 to 5 pounds. And that will last. There's only 6 cats out there. It'll last them for days. I just fill it up as needed. And I go to bed and it's completely full to the rim, and I get up in the morning and it's bare empty. And, when cats eat, they leave crumbs. This thing looks like it's been licked clean. You've got 3-gallon water. That's empty. The food's gone. And the cats are screaming at me like they've never been fed. Like, good grief. But they run through those tubes that they've made in the brush, and then they go in the cat pen and they get it.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't ever hurt my animals. I've not had problems with that.
I don't bring my dog out to the forest. He's too small. He's only like 4 pounds.
Yeah. I've got one that's 7, and it's like he doesn't go too far off the porch. I think he's more intimidated by him than the other ones. I had one pick up my daughter's Shih Tzu at one time, and it was literally carrying this dog around the woods. Never heard it, nothing. I mean, I went out there and I was like, you bring that dog. I was, like they're ever going to listen to me anyway. And I went down the driveway thinking it was going to take off with the dog. And when I went down the driveway, it went back and set the dog on the porch. I came back and it was just dropping the dog off on the porch and it left. But it didn't hurt it at all. It was just holding it.
Gugway would have been a different story.
Oh, yeah. It would have been lunch. Those things are bad news. And they'll eat each other. They'll eat anything. They're cannibalistic.
Oh, nice.
Yep. They're like giant assassins. All they do is kill.
They need some anger management.
Yeah, big time. Somebody needs to be putting Prozac in their food.
Right.
I'm surprised a lot of people are getting a lot of interaction right now. A lot of minds speak.
We got about 20 seconds, so just bear with me, Robin.
Sure.
Hi, Broken Shadow Feather. How are you? Anybody else jump in here? And big thank you to T-Bone ×2, Mel WD40, Pam, and Fast Hemi for the great super chats. Appreciate your love. And here we go. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to remind all of you that if you've missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Robin Haynes, the Crypted Q&A, continuing right now with one of our favorite researchers and intuitives, Robin Haynes. Thank you for being here, Robin.
Well, thank you. May I say one thing before we get started, please?
Sure.
Jules had asked, I think it was Jules, asked the question about if that Sasquatch was startled. And it's now talking in my head 90 miles an hour, and it's not going to stop until I give them the message. When it said about the bird, it's being really specific about a bluebird. I don't know what the significance of this being a bluebird is. Maybe the person knows. I have no idea. It's just going, you didn't tell them it was a bluebird. It was a bluebird. So apparently that's a big deal, but they wanted him to know it was a bluebird. It's just once they have a message, they don't stop in your head until you put it out there. So I'm not trying to regress, but I'm not going to get any peace until I said that.
I could get that. Very cool. Very cool. All right, let's get to more audience questions. Start off with Paramarv here. Are the forest people aware of the 3-eye Atlas object approaching Earth? If so, have they offered any insight on it?
That's a really good question, and I actually think they are aware of it. The ones that I've talked to do not seem concerned. They really don't. I know I've been on other shows where they've asked me about that too. And when I scanned that, I got several different races of ETs on it. And I also got 3 humans. Now, I don't understand that, but that's what I got. And I did ask the Sasquatch about it that are around me and some of the other ones that I've worked with. Nobody seems overly concerned. I mean, I would think if these were really bad ETs, they would be in panic mode, but they don't seem overly concerned. So, I'm going to take that as a good thing. If whatever's on that craft, and it is a craft, if whatever is on that craft is bad intended, they're not thinking negative thoughts or bad thoughts at this point, because I couldn't pick up anything negative yet. I keep checking it, and the Sasquatch aren't picking up anything negative either, because when I asked them if I got it wrong, was there more to this? And they said no. They said, your people, this is what they did say, your people may try to make it something it's not. But we are not concerned, and you shouldn't be either. So, whether that means our people will make it a false flag, I don't know. But that is what they said, and they seem quite calm about it.
Good. Good. Let's move on. Let's go to Creepypasta here. Hi, Robin. I'm just looking for some more advice to try and initiate contact with Sasquatch. They are near me. I just need help initiating contact. Any ideas?
Absolutely. First off, find a spot to sit. Okay, whether you play music, whether you're laughing, or whether you're just sitting on a log and talking to them. If you have an area you can have a bonfire, have a bonfire. But rather than run around looking for them, let them come to you. It gives them a comfort. You want to do things that raise your frequency. Okay, other than doing frequency work ahead of time, you can work on things that bring you joy. If an ice cream cone makes you happy, eat an ice cream cone. Reading a book makes you happy, read a book. Anything that brings you joy will raise your frequency. So do that prior to, and even when you're out there. But don't be chasing them all over. You can walk in their area, certainly. But I mean, for the most part, find a spot, sit down and talk to them. I know somebody that will go out and play their guitar, and they love it. My daughter, when she was young, would go sit on a blanket and play her clarinet, and they would come out of the woodwork. So those kinds of things. They love music, not the harsh music, but, upbeat, joyful music. They like that. Bring up your vibration, and they generally will follow you. The other thing is mind speak. You may not understand how to get mind speak, but you can offer it to them. Talk to them in your mind, because it will go farther reaching than just within the vicinity where you verbally are. You can verbally talk to them, but also in your mind. When you think about them a lot, that tends to pick up your vibration easier, and it tends to bring them closer to you.
If I can add something to that too, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Do everything the same. The first few weeks, try and wear the same clothes. You can wash them.
Yep.
Okay. Park in the exact same spot. Put your lawn chairs in the same spot. You don't need to be flashing around. If you have firearms, let them know that you're carrying, that you're not going to bring them up to them. This is all stuff we do out at Flight 21. If you look at the videos that we have on there, Tim and I are pretty much dressed the same every time. The same ball cap almost, except for a couple. Usually the same color T-shirts. I'm always wearing a green vest for the most part, because they do love the familiarity of everything. They will learn what does your engine on your vehicle sound like? What does the slamming of your doors sound like? They are looking to do everything the same. And when you set up your base camp, make sure that's a base camp that you want to have. Okay, where you're going to put your lawn chairs, you're going to park your vehicle in the same spot, you're going to build your fire if you're permitted to build fires at this time of year in your area. Do everything the same, and the more you do it the same, they're going to get curious, because it'll be about building trust.
100% across. That was perfect. Yeah, and the thing of it is anytime you deviate to something new, it sets you back, because they don't do change well. They are not good with change. Change to them means it could be a trap. It could be danger. So when you change things around a lot, even tiny changes, they go back to square one, and then they've got to watch you for an undetermined amount of time again until they get back into that groove. Dave is 1 billion% right.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I want to add to that too is, and you mentioned it quickly, when Tim and I go out to Flight 21, We don't do the Todd Standing thing and run after him. We don't do the YouTube thing where you got to chase into that area. Even when a couple weeks ago when we were playing hide and go seek with them, we were moving just in regular walking pattern. Okay, we weren't running, we weren't chasing, we weren't looking like we were agitating them. You know, I mean, they're there to confuse us. We're not there to confuse them. But
You have
don't have to wear a ghillie suit. You don't have to
no.
make your face camouflage. You don't have to wear camouflage clothing, you know, to hide yourself from the creatures, you know, so they don't see you. They already know you're there.
Well, and as far as the camel goes, all you're going to do is drive them away. Unless they know you well enough to know that they're safe. Camouflage means hunters. Hunters mean weapons. They used to, at my house, at deer season, when it was bow season, every year, I'd get from 30 to 50 arrows that they would get from these hunters, and they would bring them to my porch, put them on my porch, so I would take them away. Camel means you're trying, in their mind, you're being deceptive. You're trying to hide. Now, they already know the hunters are getting deer, and they do go up to the hunters and they steal the deer as they get them. We already know that. But they associate that with weapons. So it's not going to do you any good, you know, to do that. And he's right. Don't chase them. Go out there, pick a spot, let them come to you. You have to make a choice when you start trying to interact. Do you want positive interaction or negative? Because if you are just out there, and I don't think this is what you're doing, but let's say you're going out there and you're so intent on getting contact that you're not looking at the longevity of how long your contact will go over. You just want to see one. That's putting you in a position for a negative contact, and that will follow you around, and you're not going to get any more contact. It's a one and done. You blew your chance. But if you go slow, if you do the protocols like what Dave's done, or the things that I've talked about in a lot of other researches as well, and you let them make the decisions, their world, they have to make the decisions, or survival depends on it. When you don't take that out of their hands and you stay and you're doing the same thing repetitively over and over, and you're not chasing them, you can build a relationship with them that will last you the rest of your life. They will follow you if you move. They will do all kinds of things. They will show up at your home, but it's all based on trust. So you have to, before you even start interaction, do you want a short-term interaction or a long-term? And then, you know, you can choose how you handle it accordingly for that.
I love it. I love it. All right, let's get you another question here, Robin. Let's go to Mike, who is asking, Robin, you mentioned before you don't believe Bigfoot migrate, but in your opinion, how are they all over the world? How did they get there?
I absolutely 100% do not believe they migrate. And even when I've asked them, they don't. They say they don't. They follow the food sources, but that's not a migration. As far as how they get all over the world, there's several things. Number one, they live all over the world. There is not a place on this planet that they do not live. I know people that have them in Hawaii. Okay. They've been sighted by Antarctica. They live everywhere. But it's, you know, again, this goes where they are multidimensional beings. The clans that are allowed to use their abilities will go through portals. They'll go through rifts. There are some clans that are old school, and the leader of that clan will not allow that, and they have to stay in flesh and blood. For them, they have to walk. If they don't walk, they're not going far. They also don't have the lifespan that the other ones do, because within the high frequency of the portals and the rifts, it kills off any diseases, any illnesses, or anything like that, and they have a longer lifespan. But as far as your question goes, there is nowhere on the planet that they don't live. There really isn't. They adapt beautifully no matter what the condition is. And they will move through the dimensions. They will go through the portals. I have one that is out in Texas and will show up in South Carolina in a moment's notice, and then he's gone again. And I have a friend that'll call me and say, you know what? He just showed back up. I mean, it literally, when they go in these dimensions, there is no time. Time doesn't exist in them. So yeah, they can do that. But they also have no problem walking miles and miles and miles. And they can do that very quickly.
All right, let's move on to another question here. Let's go next to Erica. My friend's Sasquatch showed himself to me remotely. He was like, I'm showing myself to you. Yes, you saw me. It was amazing. What's that like, Robin?
I think that's beautiful, and it's very common. Good for you. I mean, that really says a lot about you as a person, about your frequency, about your heart. I think that's fantastic. They will show you themselves remotely. For them, they do it for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're safer. It's kind of like a test, if you will. That way, they're safer because if you're going to do anything to try to harm them, you're looking at them remotely. Okay. Another way they do it is maybe they're not close to you at that time, but they want you to see them so they can do it remotely. They also do it for your benefit so that they can see how well you're going to handle that initial contact. Now, not all of them will do that first, but a great many will. It's like people will get them in dream state. And they're like, I just had a dream about a Sasquatch. Well, you could be a regular dream, but dream state is also a real plane. So it could be like, I call them the meet and greet, where different ones and different entities, dogmen, whatever, other cryptids, will introduce themselves to you that way. They find that you're in a more relaxed state and they're able to make contact easier. As far as doing it remotely, I think that's fantastic. There's been several instances where they'll let you look through their eyes and you can see what they see, or they will look through your eyes and see what you're looking at. But it's wonderful when they do it remotely. They're making sure that you get that contact, and they're making sure that you're not going to be frightened. They're going to judge your reaction, and it's safe for you. It's safe for them. That's a fantastic thing. Congratulations. I think that's wonderful.
All right, let's move on here. Let's go next to Vanessa, who is asking, how do your feral cats feel about the Sasquatches?
Do you know what? I'm very blessed. My cats don't have a problem with them. When I moved here, and any place I've ever lived, I went outside with my animals and mine spoke, I verbally spoke, I held my animals, I loved on them and said, you know what? The laws are, I don't hurt your children and your pets, because they do have pets. And I don't want you to hurt mine. These are like my children. I love them. And I have never in my lifetime had them hurt any of my animals. I have miniature pigs. Okay. Those are part of their food source, are pigs. They don't bother them. I've seen them pick up my cats and walk around with my cats. I've never had a feral cat get hurt. They will get out in the backyard with the dogs, and I've seen them do belly crawls in the backyard with the dogs. I've seen them pick up the dogs. Never had anybody get hurt. So the feral cats seem to be quite at ease with them. The only time that sends them off is if we get a new one in there. Everybody has an energy signature, just like a thumbprint. So when they're used to certain ones around, they know what they feel like. All animals are high frequencies as well. They can tell your frequency. And so as long as it's one of the regulars, they're very comfortable with them. They don't panic. They will walk up to them. I have a little calico female that's feral that comes up on my porch every night, and she'll go right to them. If you see one moving around in the bushes, she goes right to them. A lot of my dogs do the same thing. The ferals I have in two different pens. I have boys in one side, girls in the other. If I can get my hands on them, I separate the sexes to kind of slow down the breeding population. And I have caught the cryptids in the pen with them, and none of them have acted like they were afraid. If they walk by the cages, they will go directly to the side that the Sasquatch are on. So I've been very fortunate, but I'm very careful when I move somewhere to make sure that I have boundaries set. Does that mean that they'll always follow that? No, depending on if the wrong one came in, it could be a disaster. But fortunately for myself, I have not had that bad experience. I do know people that have, but I have not had that experience.
All right, let's move on to another question for you from Blue Cruz. 3 minutes ago, Robin. Do the
Okay.
Gugway create crude weapons such as a stone axe or a bow and arrow to attack from a distance?
I would believe yes. The Sasquatch do. I think the Gugwies do as well. But Gugwies are a whole different creature. They may look like a Sasquatch with the snout on it, like a baboon face, but they are so highly aggressive, and they will use anything they have to kill.
Yeah, I was just going to say, for our audience who may not understand what a Gugway is, maybe explain it.
Yeah, a Gugwee is a highly aggressive cryptid. They are a body of a Sasquatch, but instead of a normal face of a Sasquatch, it's a baboon face where they have that snout that's squared off. They do not have the compassion that a Sasquatch does. These things are void of emotion. They are cannibalistic in nature, and they live to kill. They will kill and eat each other. There are humans that they've killed. There are Sasquatch they've killed. They've killed dogmen. If they can get their hands on it, they are dead. These things literally go from place to place to kill. There is not anything good in them. Like, even to scan their energy, it's horrible. It is absolutely horrible. And they are one of the few things that the Sasquatch and other cryptids are afraid of. Now, generally, when they kill a Gugwee, they do it by getting it on the ground and ripping the head off, because that's the only way to kill them. If you were to shoot one, you would have to go through the eye socket, and even that is not guaranteed. This is not something that you want to come up against, even with a weapon, because they are unstoppable. Like I said, the cryptids do it by ripping their heads off.
Oh, nice. It's always so polite that way.
I know. They're givers.
All right, Robin, we got about 1 minute left with you tonight, and it's another show that has flown on by. And, I know it's been a month, but man, has it been good being able to chat with you again.
I know. I missed you.
Trust me. I missed everything. I missed doing the show. I missed you. I missed all of our guests. And it's just, you know what? It's over now. We can breathe again.
I know. But I have to say, there's something special about Spaced Out Radio. And that's not a promo. That's me being very sincere. I do a lot of shows, and I enjoy my time on all the shows. I really do. And the people are wonderful. But there is something special about Spaced Out Radio. And the people that are asking the questions and are in the chat, they're just lovely. There's something about it. I missed it. I missed everybody.
Well, we're glad that you're here again. So thank you very much, Robin, for coming back on Spaced Out Radio.
Absolutely.
20 seconds. Do me a favor. Tell everybody where they can find you. 20 seconds.
Sure. If you want to book a session with me, you can go to www.paranormal-empowerment.com. Or if you need to reach out to me, you can find me on Facebook under Robin Haynes, Haynes, no middle initial.
Robin Haynes, everybody. We love it when she is here. She is just amazing and just a beautiful human being as we say goodnight to her. And hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. Rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. All right, Robin, I'll give you a call in a couple of minutes for my phone.
Oh, okay. You're gonna call me?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Let me just make sure, because I think I programmed your new number in here.
Yeah, the other number's still broken. I mean, I've got both of them, but this is the one that will work.
Hold on.
Starts with a 9.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay,
There
I'll
it
be
is.
waiting for your call.
Okay, give me a few minutes.
Not
Tomorrow
a problem.
night on the show, everybody. Hi, Jeff Steve Garvey. He'll hit a home run for you. Tomorrow night on the show, we have Stephen and Evan Strong coming on about alien ancestry. Well, no, that's the following week. Never mind. Hold on here. What the hell's happening tomorrow? Christopher Jordan is going to be joining us about becoming better citizen scientists. The weird and strange. I'm going to love that conversation tomorrow. Thank you tonight to T-Bone, my man, ×2, Pam, Mel WD40, and Fast Hemi for the super chats. Greatly appreciate your love, and we will see you all tomorrow night. Good night, everybody. Good night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.